WeatherTech SportsCar Championship on IMSA Radio.
Welcome to Indianapolis Motor Speedway, the Brickyard. Fantastic to have your company for this, the penultimate race in the IMSA WeatherTech SportsCar Championship. The 10 hours of Motul Petit Le Mans to come. But here we're fighting it out over 3'3" of bricks. That is what the winners in each of the classes will be kissing at the end of the 2 hours and 40 minutes. Hello everybody, it's John Hindhaugh and the IMSA Radio and IMSA TV team coming to you and bringing you all of the live action from this 14 corners, 2.5 mile circuit. Action areas at turn 1 and turn 7, high braking points there, and there's been plenty of action there throughout the weekend so far. Also, as we're running backwards on the oval, down from turn 2 in the short chute as you break down to turn 12, and then side by side is possible for the run to the line through turn 14. Big crowd on hand. It has been absolutely packed down in the pit lane just a few moments ago in our Michelin countdown to green. Shea Adam posing that philosophical question: if you can't see the pavement and the cars and the grid, do they actually exist? Well, they do, and they are rolling out of pit lane now. I'm John Hindhaugh in the IMSA Global Broadcast Centre. Thank you for taking some time on this Sunday, just after 7 o'clock in Europe, 6 o'clock in the UK, and we are ready to get this race started. Jeremy Shaw and Shea Adam with me, and here are our Porsche keys to the race, with all of the cars having left the pit lane. Nimble on your strategy. Jeremy and I were talking about this in our Michelin Countdown to Green, and we'll be awarding our BDO Nose Strategy Award before the end of the race to the teams that we think have affected their race most positively by playing the right strategic cards. Have to be a bit patient at certain parts of this circuit. It is only one car wide, even though we've got big pace differentials, and trying to force the matter could end in tears for you or the people who you are trying to pass. The tyres or the fuel, is that going to be the stint length determinant? We really kind of don't know. The teams are playing their cards close to their chest in that respect, and we have had some long runs during the qualifying, but the tyre degradation does not seem, the tyre wear does not seem to be a major facet here and factor to what is going on. So probably what we're going to see is the guys pushing those Michelin tyres as hard as possible and trying to keep track position, particularly in your pit stops. It's very easy to go a lap down here with a lap time at the front of the field that is only just over 70 seconds, a minute and 12, a minute and 13 seconds. Then it is possible to go a lap down in green flag pit stops, and you know what that can have, what effect that can have if you time that the wrong way round. Just Motul Petit Le Mans to come after this one. The championships are still very much up for grabs, although in GTD, in the overall, in the Sprint Cup, it's all very much leaning towards the number one of Madison Snow, who starts on pole position with Brian Sellers. Paul Miller Racing looking to clean up this year again. They've already won a record-breaking 5 races in 2023. Even when they won the championship in years past, they haven't won 5 races on this season. In GTD Pro, Klaus Bachler will start on pole for Pfaff Motorsport right alongside Madison Snow. They'll be side by side, the BMW and the Porsche. In LMP3, Junior 3 Racing have locked out the front row with Bijoy Garg and Nolan Siegel. LMP2, two of the guys that have been battling all season, Ben Keating and PR1 Matheson Motorsport, the Wins 52 cars alongside George Kurtz. For CrowdStrike Racing by Algarve Pro Racing, back in the series, already committed to that for next year, both of those drivers. Although, whilst George is staying with CrowdStrike by APR for a full season, Ben Keating is heading to a new 2-car effort by United Autosports USA, multi-championship winning team from Europe, and Le Mans winners as well in category. The team from Yorkshire are heading to the Carolinas and teaming up with Junior 3 Racing, and will be running their US component of their season from there. In GTP, it's another full team lockout on the front row of the grid. Matt Jaminet and Matt Campbell. Matt Campbell taking pole position from his teammate, the 7 from the 6, the 2 Penske Porsche 963s that have undoubtedly found more performance since we saw them really underperform at Le Mans. And out of all the manufacturers, I think they were probably the most disappointed at what happened at Le Mans, but they have been testing and testing and testing, and they have tried a lot of different setups on those cars to help with particularly rear tyre wear. They've found a balance that they like in the last couple of races in the World Endurance Championship. That information's been passed over here, and they've locked out the front row. Take a deep breath and let's get ready to race. 2 hours and 40 minutes on the clock. And the IMSA WeatherTech SportsCar Championship has a green flag. The timing pylon goes green, and we are racing down to turn 1 for this split start with the prototypes round the outside for Sebastian Bourdais. Can he get his braking right in the gold-fronted machine? The pole sitter goes long, and Matt Campbell has seeded the front row, and there's a spin behind him, and that was Sebastian Bourdais. And he's going to be right at the back of the GTP and LMP2 field, LMP2 and 3 field, as he rejoins. Question will be, is there any damage to that gold-fronted Cadillac, which started in 4th position? Mathieu Jaminet in the number 6 car is in the lead. And an untidy start for the GTs. At least one car out of line there as they came through, but Madison Snow has converted pole position into a lead at the first corner. The start, as is always the way, is under review. It's the BMW of Madison Snow from Klaus Bachner. Shea Adam down on the pit wall was watching that GT start. Who did you see break rank, Shea?
Further back is number 97, Chandler Hull, has gone awry with bodywork actually now askew as well. But because that green flag came out, and because it was Paul Miller Racing who took the green flag and got it first, I can do my first interview of the race and say congratulations to the 2-time sprint champion, Paul Miller. Paul, congratulations on another sprint championship. It's official now.
Is it really?
It is. You guys have been the first team to win 2 sprint championships in this season as we've gone to full course yellow. No one has done 2 sprint championships, but because you took the green flag, you've now done it again. Congratulations.
Really? That's fantastic. How about the championship?
That's where the focus goes now, right? Good luck for the rest of the race, Paul.
Well, thanks.
He's going to take advantage, then he gets nudged around by one of the BMWs. I think that was Philip.
So there's our first championship of the year. Big damage, I think, on that Cadillac. Came round the outside and didn't get the pass made, and in fact got turned around. Was turned around by Jeremy. Was that the Acura? Was it Philip Eng? Was it? Okay, yeah, it was the BMW. I saw the white-fronted car.
Yeah, that was Philip Eng who got in. I mean, look, here's a look at the replay of turn 1. Well, sort of. What happened here? We switched around. There's some little bit of 9-7 car just got a bit sideways there, and I think Sheila Monk was able to avoid that car spinning on to the inside. But yeah, that was really a messy start for GTP. I guess one of the other Michelin keys to the race we should have talked about, John, but. Always in his GTP cars, we've got these much more durable tyres this season that are designed to last longer, but because of that, they take longer to heat up and get up to proper optimal temperatures. I think a few guys just got a bit greedy down there in turn 1, and the pole sitter got in a bit too deep, he ran wide, and then there was sort of concertina effect behind, as always happens at turn 1 here. It's crazy. We talk about it every race here, whatever the formula or categories are, and it always seems to happen. But that was just a sort of kind of concertina movement there, and yeah, there were various innocent victims. Certainly Sebastian Bourdais, that was not of his making at all. He got a tag, I think, from Philippe Eng, and the number 10 Acura, the championship leader car, was kind of caught up in that as well. I think they were both able to continue. And before we go back to green, we will have a complete reset of the field. So the categories, each of the classes are all separated. Well, not separated physically, but each of the classes will be together when we get to the restart. So the field will shuffle itself straight again. Sebastian Bourdais has brought number 01 car into the pits. Here he comes. A lot of damage on that right front, but hopefully it's just a front bodywork that will be able to change. It's an emergency service for the 01 car.
Yeah, they'll only be allowed to change the nose, no other work allowed to be done, no fuel, no tyres, and then they will have to come back in when we go back to green. If there's a tyre damage, they could change that. They're just checking around the rest of the car. In fact, I think they have changed a right rear wheel, rear wheel and tyre and a new nose, but they will have to come back in when we go green and serve a drive-through. Now, this is good, I suppose, that it's happened at the start of the race. And Bourdais then back out. Definitely got a clip from behind, though, Jeremy, to set that in motion down at turn 1. There was bits of GT car. Bits of a GT car lying about on the circuit as well. And we'll have to work out and find out if there's going to be any penalties for that.
Yeah, it was a very, very messy start indeed, which was kind of predictable, I suppose, but a shame nonetheless. And look, it's a long race, so Bourdais now will be able to take up position at the rear of the GTP field for the restart. GTP cars will line up ahead of the LMP2s, ahead of the LMP3s, ahead of all the GT cars, which will not be split amongst pros and non-pro. They will be as they are, all the GT cars. But then, as you say, John Hindhoff, the number 01 car will have to come in and serve a penalty after that. But if he's at the front, towards the front of the field, he should be able to make that stop and to get back out again without losing a lap.
14 corners with the chicane, and just on 2.5 miles, the version of the track that we are using. Hello to Steve Tadman, and to Jam, and to Jerry Z, all tuning in from around the world, live in sound and vision. No subscription required if you're outside the US. Also on XM 207 this weekend, as always, on one of the XM channels. If you're in the US and you are so equipped, you can pick us up on the XM platform. At IMSA Radio, if you'd like to get in touch with us here in the Global Broadcast Centre. And of course, if you're at the track, tell your friends that they can tune in on RS2, part of the Radio Show Limited network of channels. That's where they can find IMSA Radio. No blocks, no breaks, no interruptions, and no subscriptions. Yeah, it was the BMW that originally spun round Sebastian Bourdais, and then the number 60 Acura of Tom Blomqvist came on the scene and had to pretty much stop to avoid. No, maybe it was. Yeah, had to pretty much stop to avoid the spinning Cadillac, I think. No, it was was the 60 that turned him round. It was the 60 that turned him round. It was Well,
I think the 10 got into the 60, and the 24 was around the outside, I think.
Yeah, you might be right there, Jeremy. Very similar to the start excitement that we've had over the last few races back at the WeatherTech Raceway. People going very hard into the first corner. No tyre blankets or warmers here in IMSA, so you do have to pick your brake points slightly differently from if you were on a flying lap, and these are very experienced drivers, and that's a bit unnecessary at the start of the race, but we understand the helmet goes on, the red mist comes down. Right, now the field all together here, but at least starting in single file. No split between the categories here. The GTPs have been allowed to go at the front, but everyone else just in line astern. And Mathieu Jaminet, who took the lead after his front row starting teammate went a little bit wide, will restart, and the number 6 Porsche goes through to restart. It was already side by side. Nick Yellerly and Philip Eng, the 2 BMWs, fighting it out for 3rd and 4th, 24 and 25. They cycle in again in single file into the first corner. And a decent restart, I think, there from everybody concerned, as Ricky Taylor puts in the fastest lap, first really quick flying lap. He's down in 10th position. That car off the road this morning. A very bizarre incident at the gap between 7 and 8. He just spun up the back wheels on his second lap around. The grass was very wet and he slid sideways into the wall, did some damage to the bodywork and to the right rear suspension. That car missed the rest of morning warm-up, but it's out there now, so we'll keep an eye. They've only had the laps to the grid to work out whether they've got that car sorted out. And an early pit caller for Shea Adam to tell us about.
It was Gar Robinson coming into the pit lane, taking on fuel and 4 new sticker Michelin tires. Now, he did have an off in the qualifying session. That resulted in the car needing to be mostly rebuilt for the race today. But now the car has resumed, and Gar Robinson is off with some fresh rubber to fight up against the rest of the field.
And a problem for the number 96 BMW getting on the grass whilst battling that Turner Motorsport car, battling with the Lamborghini, and that resulted in a lot of time lost. And in comes Faf. This was the car that started on pole position for the GTD Pro. Now this is a drive-through for changing lanes at the start of the race, and my goodness me, there was a big move. We mentioned that at the time, and Shea Adam spotted it before the line as they were trying to block the WeatherTech AMG car, and maybe just a little bit of forgetfulness from Klaus Bachler and Pfaff Motorsport, but that's cost them, Jeremy, a lot of real estate.
It has, yeah. I mean, not the sort of mistake factory drivers should be making, quite frankly. They should know the rules inside and out. And he's been doing it. It's his first year in the championship, but he's been here all year. And he should know the rules by now. You're not allowed to change lanes before the start-finish line. And he clearly did that. So he's going to get a penalty. That's going to be very, very costly. I mean, all the GT cars, and there's lots of them here, there's 22 of them in total. They're all very closely matched, so first of all, he's got to catch them. There'll probably be another full course caution at some stage to enable him to do that, most likely, unfortunately. But then he's got to pass them all. That's going to be more difficult.
Hello to Blur fans watching the TV feed in the States with IMSA Radio turned up, as I know many of you do. At IMSA Radio, if you're doing that, let us know. We'll give you your just rewards for that. Hopefully we'll be able to keep you in touch with all of the action as we go through the race. Right turn lover in the middle of Europe tuned in at coming up to 7:30 in the evening. Truly international audience for IMSA, International Sports Car Championship, of course, the International Motorsports Association, and plenty of the eyes of international with their eyes on this championship this year, and even more, I suspect, next year, as the opening laps beginning to settle down now, with still at the front of the field those 2 Porsches carving out a decent run. And
yeah, the second.
Sorry, Jeremy, go ahead.
The second of those cars is a quicker one at the moment. It's Matty Campbell with Paul Sidder, having made that mistake. He's been quicker on each of the last couple of laps. He's got the fastest lap of the race so far at 1:15.5. But you know, it does take time to get these tyres optimal temperatures and pressures to where they need to be to really turn fast lap times. We've done this is the third flying lap now, plus several pace laps as well, including the safety car laps. So now I think we're getting the true pace of these cars. 15.5 then for Maddie Campbell, and already 3 seconds clear of the BMWs, which lead the pack behind. And the number 01 car has been in to serve its penalty.
Spin, Jeremy, for the number 15 AMG. It's the yellow and blue Lone Star machine. Oh, that's dear mate. And has gone round again on the infield.
Yeah, it's going to.
Anton Diaz Pereira started that car, and he hasn't managed to get. This is down at one of the action areas we've been talking about, coming through turn 12 into 13, and has just lost it on the exit. I've just seen Sheena Monk in the pit lane. That was incident responsibility for the incident, the crash with the number 97. We've got the number 30 LMP3 that has gone around. That was Nolan Siegel from second place and a front row start for Junior 3 racing. So just as we've seen all through the week so far, Jeremy, very difficult for people to get themselves in the rhythm early on.
Yeah, I mean, gosh, how many? Probably easy to count the number of cars that haven't been involved in the incident so far in the first 8 laps of this race. But out in front, we've got 2 Porsches pulling serenely away now from the BMWs, who are being pursued by Jimmy Bruni and Alexander Sims. So Jimmy Bruni in that Proton competition Porsche, he's worked his way up from 9th on the grid to 5th, and running ahead of Pipo Derani. And then a bit of a gap back to Tom Blomqvist, who seems to be struggling at this stage. Not sure whether it's just the fact that he hasn't yet got full confidence in those Michelin tyres, or whether he has a problem after that incident at turn 1.
Another car into the pit lane. This is the number 24, and the BMW. Is this another penalty? So have they been given incident? No, they are pitting. I hadn't seen a penalty from them. I'll just check. We have got a penalty for the number 78, Misha Goldberg, excuse me, in the 40 Lamborghini. That was for the incident with the Turner BMW. Shea Adam was watching the BMW.
They gave him fuel, replenished the energy, and changed the right front tire, put a new scrubbed Michelin on. Now, they only have 3 sets of Michelin between qualifying and the race, so that's coming out of their allocation from another set of tires. Oh, boy.
They do have, I think there's a pair, isn't there? They do have 2 spares. Oh no, they've only got 3 sets of tyres, haven't they? 3 4s of 12, that's right. In terms of what they're allowed from the start of qualifying onwards. So it means they're going to have to mix and match for the rest of the race. 2 Porsches now into the GT traffic as they lead the race. Eng rejoined for BMW. In the classes, Bishoy Garg leads from Alexander Karebe for Performance Tech, 29 from 38 in LMP2, with Anthony Mantella in 3rd for AWA. It's George Kurtz who's got ahead of Ben Keating in the battle of the bronzes. 04 CrowdStrike Racing by Algarve Pro Racing ahead of PR1 Matheson, the Wins 52 car, and Rodrigo Sales for TDS in the 35 in 3rd. In GTD, Madison Snow from pole position leads Jules Gunon. The WeatherTech Racing Mercedes coming through after that drive-through for Pfaff Motorsport. Mick Grenier for Team Korthoff in the 32 Mercedes is 3rd. And the top 6 made up by Jack Hawksworth for Vassar Sullivan in their pro car, the 14. Jordan Taylor for Corvette Racing in the number 3 car. That's the battle for the championship. Go ahead, Jeremy, sorry.
Heavy traffic right now for the GTP cars to negotiate, but these Porsches sort of 3 seconds clear. There's another spin for Anton Diaz Pereira. He's having a tough time, isn't he, in that Lone Star Mercedes? That's a shame. Oh, we got what happened there?
I think that was.
Yeah, and here's a change of lead position for the lead now in LMP2. That's
yeah,
George
we've talked
Kurtz.
about that already. That's a replay,
Yeah,
Jeremy.
making a pass. Yeah,
Yeah,
so that's,
down at turn 1.
That's the 9th position overall. That's did we see it? Did we see it earlier on?
No, but I did mention it in the rundown there. Yeah. So now we know where it happened, and that was George in that battle of the bronzes, as we mentioned, and he's now set the fastest lap in that race, 9th position overall. And it was the 30 car spinning earlier on as well that we mentioned, and that was giving up a really good position actually from that car, which started on the front row for Nolan Siegel in the Junior 3 racing car. We've only had 10 minutes and we seem like we've had a race full of incidents already. Traffic management possibly should have been one of our keys to the race. I did say patience, but maybe that was the wrong word that we chose there, as the GTPs for the first time here in race conditions. So all of these classes in fact are setting new race lap records this weekend, and so far the best is a 1:19.0 for LMP2. As far as GTP is concerned, a 1:15.5. I'd expect as the fuel burns off and the track temperature comes up a little bit, it's sitting at just 91 Fahrenheit at the moment, 33 Celsius, air temperature a pleasant 21 Celsius, 70 Fahrenheit. And side-by-side action with the privateer Porsche coming through for WeatherTech and Proton. They were having a good battle there with the number 31 Pipo Durrani driven Whelen Engineering Cadillac. Cadillacs haven't shown that much pace so far this week, Jeremy.
No, they seem to have been struggling just a little bit, although, I mean, in qualifying, Sebastian Bourdais was less than 0.3 of a second off the pole sitting time, but overall, through the practice sessions, they haven't been quite on the pace of the Porsches. But that's it's been a good start there for Pipo Durrani. He's worked his way up, and they got past Jimmy Bruni there finally, so up into 4th position now, but already 5 seconds behind even Nick Yellowly in the BMW that was second of the BMWs, but the number 24 car is now working its way back up through the field of LMP3 cars.
Uh, 24 rejoined after that pit stop, so we think a puncture on that BMW.
Pretty spread out at the moment through in the GTP ranks as they're working their way through this traffic. I mean, big knots of traffic there, big lots of GT cars as we expect. Actually, I would expect them to be a little bit closer. Actually, it'll be closer later on when all the pro drivers get behind the wheels of these cars. There's some good icing going on at the moment. Whoa, there's a big slide there for David Bruley in caliber 92. Rodrigo Salas coming under intense pressure from Dan Goldberg in the Tower Motorsport car. Salas in that number 35, the red and yellow car, as opposed to the yellow and red, and number 11, the sister TDS car. Right behind that primarily orange car of Tower Motorsports, that's Dan Goldberg. He's been an LMP3 regular over the last several years, making his toe in the water debut in the LMP2 this weekend. And he's been fast. He was quickest of the non-pro drivers through the practice sessions, and he's putting a lot of pressure now on Rodrigo Salas, who had a tremendous run last time out at Road America, where he was drafted into, ironically, that Tower Motorsport car at the last minute. This weekend, he had so much fun there at Road America, he's decided to get back into the LMP2 class here. He's a regular in Europe. As around goes Dwight Merriman at turn 13. But Rodrigo Salas doing a nice job here, but under a lot of pressure from Dan Goldberg. That's numbers 35 and 8.
Early running then, with still 2 hours and 16 minutes to go, and well, we can say it's not been uneventful so far. And just check to see if there was a little bit of assistance there to cause that spin. Close with the high-class racing car. Hard to see whether that was on the ground. No, there was a touch earlier actually with the 18 that pushed the high-class racing car off. So side-by-side action between that TDS car and the high-class number 20. Call that one one way or the other. Race control have their work cut out there. Let's go down and speak to some of the drivers who didn't take the start of the race. Trent Hinman is with Shea Adam in the pit lane.
Trent, you and the number 77 Volt Racing Porsche were the fastest car in morning warm-up. How difficult is it when these conditions are completely the opposite of what we had this morning?
It is tough, but you've got to do the best you can to get a read and warm up and try to make your best prediction on what direction the racetrack is going to go. So I think we did a good job of that. I think we had a good handle of that in mind this morning. But of course, it's warm up. You know, everybody's doing a different procedure. You know, betting in equipment, doing whatever. So take it with a grain of salt. But I'm very confident in the race car that we have this weekend. The Wright Motorsports boys have done a ton of work since our last race at VIR to find a little bit more speed. I think we certainly have found it. The name of the game, I think, today is staying clean and staying out of trouble. And so far, Alan's doing a really nice job of that. So it's a long race. We'll keep marching our way forward.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Speaking of staying out of trouble, the number 20 high-class LMP2 car is in the pit lane with nose damage, but they've already used up one of their noses this weekend when they had contact with the Era Motorsports prototype. Oops.
Yeah, that was that side-by-side incident with the TDS car that left the TDS car facing in the wrong direction. But it does seem as though that they've got some damage as well. So that's a bit of racer tape going on to the front of that car in the pit lane. Have they got a new nose? That's the question. Maybe they haven't.
I didn't think they did. I didn't think they had another new nose, but they do, and they have put it on, and now, after some issue trying to get it attached, they've dropped the car off the air jacks. Dennis Anderson going back out on the same Michelins. Minimum drive time for LMP2 is 60 minutes. So they'll have to be cognizant of that, and a lot for the time spent in the pit lane already, because that does not count towards drive time.
Actually, it's the BMW that's had the racer tape put on its nose, not that car. Now the BMW is getting a new nose. Mathieu Jaminet by 1.8 seconds from Matt Campbell. The two Porsche works 963s, 6 from 7, lead the motor race by 3 seconds. By no means is that a comfortable margin, Jeremy, but it's kind of okay at this point in the race. 2 seconds between them, so they're not tripping over each other, and then another 3 seconds back to Nick Yellerly, who is the best of the BMWs after the early problems for the 24 car.
They're not tripping over each other at the moment, but the last lap they were, and it's the traffic here really does split up the field. I mean, all of a sudden they were together, and now there's nearly 2 seconds between them again. So there's ebbs and flows of traffic. You talked about it's part of the countdown to green, and the Michelin keys to the race, or Porsche keys to the race, isn't it? That traffic here is a major problem for these guys. They get knots of traffic, and they get held up in terms of the lap times through 1, 2, 3 and 4, and also 7, 8, 9 and 10, and it's very easy to lose a fair bit of time. That's exactly what happened. First of all, on the previous lap, it was number 6 car that got held up, allowed the 7 car to close in. On the next lap, it was the other way around. The number 6 car extended its lead again on the last lap around, and now it's down to 1.1 seconds. I mean, the gap over the last few laps was 2.5. Then it's down to less than a second, then 1.8, and now 1.1. So, big differences there. It's awfully difficult to turn consistent lap times here with the traffic as it is.
Here's another car coming in to the pit lane, and this time it is the number 20 high-class car again after that side-by-side contact with the TDS. And I think they've had another issue here. Yes, they have. They've been into the wall after clipping the Kelly Moss Porsche, the red and white version of the Kelly Moss Porsche, and that's the 92 car. And then clipped the wall on driver's left. Not a high-class start for high-class racing, Jeremy.
No, indeed, and there's all sorts of dramas. There's a pass for position there. That's for the lead, isn't it, in GTD, with Mikkel Grenier finding a way past Madison Snow down at turn 7. Also, I think number 60 car must have had a problem last couple of laps. He's been struggling as Tom Blomqvist in this early stint. He's just been passed. He was passed a couple of laps ago by number 5 car of Timon van der Helm. He's now been passed by Ricky Taylor. So Tom Blomqvist in car number 60, back now in the 8th position.
And now the Sean Creese Motorsport car is the next machine to find the grass. This is Lance Wilsey. He was 8th in LMP3, having started that car, and he's on the grass. Wait for him
so chalk
to...
another car that's had some problems in the early stages.
Yeah, fair point, Jeremy. See if he gets back onto the racetrack, fighting their way back through the 0-1. That BMW number 24 is having a horrid day. Back in again for the prototype. And since that early issue, they've been in a couple of times, put a new nose on. And Philip Eng is back into the pit lane. Shay, Adam?
You mentioned the 60 dropping back a few places, so I went up and checked in with Meyershank Racing regarding their Acura. The car is very difficult to drive due to that nose damage sustained in the turn 1 Schmozzle to begin the race. They're telling Tom, stick it out. We're hoping for a yellow. If we get a yellow, we'll give you tires, but we'll also give you a new nose. So that's why he's just out there kind of hanging on at this point.
Yeah, lots of people, including Uncle Kevin and Alan Prosser and Steve Tadman, seeing the driving standards isn't good, and it looks like the Korthoff Mercedes spun the 33 Sean Creech machine. So that's going to, I tell you what, Jeremy, it's going to be an awful lot of race control sitting with their cups of coffee, because there's a lot going on out there at the moment. The 33 and 8 incident under review, 20 and 92 also. Oh, that was no further action, actually. It's interesting. Okay, so we'll check to see if anything else is happening. Also, no action for the high-class car and the TDS car. That was no action either, that side-by-side contact that did damage to both of those cars.
Yeah, and there's been a change of lead again in LMP2. Ben Keating back ahead of George Kurtz again. Quite sure how that happened. All of a sudden, he's about 3 seconds clear. Is Ben Keating in that 52 car for PR1 Matheson Motorsports. They started on the pole position, so they're back in their order from the start. Those two, 52 car ahead number 04, and then Dan Goldberg up into 3rd position, having got past Rodrigo Salas a few laps to go for Tire Motorsports in car number 8. And I spoke to Dan Goldberg several weeks ago, and he was exploring opportunities to move into LMP2 next season, having done a nice job in LMP3 cars this season, and is not out of contention to win the VP Racing Challenge, Sports Car Challenge LMP3 Championship as well. The final rounds will be at Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta next month. But a toe in the water experience for him this weekend, Dan Goldberg from Florida, and he's doing a really, really nice job.
Hello to the prime supporter of the leading number 6 Porsche, the Porsche Penske Motorsport machine. Number 6 is in the lead at the moment, and Felix Tandy has got the tablet with the timing and scoring on, and he's following along on IMSA TV at almost 7:15 in central England, in Bedfordshire. Hello, Felix. Wait for your dad to get in, see how he goes. And I know that all of Team JTR are tuned in as well. Nick Tandy will be joining us in the booth for the second round of the Porsche Deluxe Carrera Cup North America, the next event that we're at, which is at Porsche Rennsport at WeatherTech Raceway, Laguna Seca. So a bit of excitement for that. Nick still to get in the car, but as we mentioned earlier on this, it will have unlocked some potential, some performance from those cars. Hello to Pepper Piggy, who says, I think we've got car football instead with all this punting, and I think we're going to get a penalty for the Corthoff car. Yes, we have a drive-through for that on the Sean Creech Motorsports machine. That was the car that was wronged, and the Corthoff number 32 of Mick Grenier, who is another highly experienced and highly thought of driver, leading GTD at the moment, with Madison Snow having dropped down into second position, but he'll have to come into the pit lane.
That's right, John. We saw that he make that pass at turn 7, and then yeah, I mean, he's quicker through the corners than number 33 car, but he should have anticipated what was coming up there, I think, Grenier. And he got back into the right rear quarter panel on number 33 car, turned it around, and I don't think really race control had much option there other than to issue a penalty to Mikkel Grenier. So really disappointing for that Team Corthoff team, you know, having had good pace in a whole string of recent races, and they've got a bit of a they've had some bounce performance breaks with that Mercedes in recent races as well. Coming into this weekend, the Mercedes is 30 kilograms lighter than it was last time out at VIR. That certainly helped the Mercedes, but having got himself in that lead now, he's going to give it all back again when he comes in to serve that penalty.
Mixed start of the race for Team RLL, BMW M team and their M Hybrid V8. Third place for Nick Yellerly, but problems for the 24 car. Shea Adam is down there with Augusto Farfus.
Augusto, what is the problem for your car?
Well, we lost power, so we had some electrical issues. At the moment, we're trying to sort it out. Seems like the throttle pedal has a kind of misread. I mean, this year I have ticked all the boxes in terms of problems, incidents, bad luck. But we keep working. Let's see if we can get the car back on track and at least get some mileage.
How important is it, too, to help the sister car by getting you back out?
Well, I think we can help in case the rain comes or something happens. But at the moment now, we are 7 laps down, so for us the race will be over. But it's important to get the mileage and also to understand a little bit tire degradation, race pace, and so on. So let's see if we can get the car back on track.
Thank you.
Very disappointing after what was a very useful and successful test, according to BMW, when the GTP manufacturers were here a few weeks ago working through traffic. The two Porsches are a little bit closer. Ben Keating just going another lap back. He is now leading George Kurtz, as Jeremy said, and he's doing some lappery himself. He's George Kurtz. He's just dropped back a little bit, around about 5 seconds, as Ben Keating has taken the wins, number 52 PR1 Matheson Motorsport car, a little further down the road. Coming down to 2 hours to go, 2 hours and 3 minutes, and you're listening to live coverage of IMSA from the Brickyard. Jeremy Shaw, Shea Adam and John Hindhaugh. And if you are listening in and you want to say hello, at IMSA Radio. RS2, if you're moving around, if you're in the US, XM207, and of course, all that is live and free, no blocks, no breaks. And outside the US, you can also have uninterrupted world feed TV coverage at imsa.tv, or indeed via the live video button menu, top left-hand side at imsaradio.com. Thank you for your company this evening. Right, Jeremy, 37, 38 minutes coming through, little bit of yellow in that. We should be starting to think, what, within the next 10 minutes or so, do we think, for the GTPs? 50 minutes for those cars?
More than that, probably, particularly with those early caution periods. I would think 55 perhaps, although there may be some thinking of it before that. If you do 50 minutes, then what's this? Is a was 260-minute race, isn't it? So you split it into 3. What do you come out at?
3 8 is 24. and carry the 5. And if it's a Mark of Dane Stockton on tees, here's the Cortez Mercedes coming into, I saved you, coming into the pit lane to serve its drive-through. And that was for the incident turning around the LMP3 car.
Yeah, I think they tried to plead their case probably, John, but have given up, and race control wins, and that car comes in to serve its penalty.
I think if you were able to see even the pictures that we have access to, thanks to our excellent colleagues at NASCAR Productions, both on the track and, of course, up at production in Charlotte, we could see that, but the race control has everything, of course. Hello to Bryn Smith and Asylum 351, and to Kenny, Kyle Denny, and it looks like we've got a car off, and it's the NSX that has gone off the number 93 car, and that is going to bring out a full course yellow, I think. Ricky Taylor is already into the pit lane, and no, hang on, that car is moving again and has to find its way through the turn 1 cut through. And who was it who started that car? It was Ashton, was it? Yes, it was. Racers Edge Motorsport and the Acura. Was 7th in GTD before that spin. So in for the number 10. And Shea Adam is watching a very quick tyre change, or partial tyre change was that, Shea?
It was fuel, tires, and a driver change for the number 10 Koenig Minolta Acura. It's now filling out the curve behind the wheel. Fuel, tires, and driver changes for both the 79 WeatherTech Racing Mercedes and the 23 Harding Racing Aston Martin. So now it's Danny Giancanea, winner of the 8-hour race here last year behind the wheel of that one, and Ross Gunn in the Aston. Fuel and tires for Roman DeAngelis in the 27 Harding Racing Aston. That's the GTD car. And also in was the number 12 Lexus from Lester Sullivan. The GTD car sees Frank Montecalvo staying aboard for another stint, but he didn't get fuel and new tires.
More bumping and boring down at turn 1. Honestly, I've seen less contact at a fairground dodgem ride than we've had in this this first 41 minutes. Not a great advert, I'm afraid, for our first time here at IMS in the in this version of IMSA.
Yeah, I mean, I must admit, I did have concerns coming to this track. I've been here several times in the past for IndyCar events, and I'm not sure, to be perfectly honest, that it really suits multi-class racing. Yesterday in the Michelin Pilot Challenge, there were only 2 classes there, and it's not a big speed differential, not a huge speed differential between the TCRs and GS cars. Well, in this series there are, and oops, yikes, that's a spin.
Big crash on the front straight, and that's almost a huge incident for Dwight Merriman in the TDS car, and a couple of cars coming through. It's very fast through the final corner, and he's broadside across the track here. Both sides of the track having to be used, and there was some very quick hands there. We're going to a full course yellow with just under 2 hours to go. There's debris on the track before him. I think there's been a coming together. Turner Motorsport got into the pit lane. That could have been immense. And, well, we were talking about poor driving standards. That was great driving reaction that went on there as they came through for this, the first visit of the IMSA WeatherTech SportsCar Championship to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. The previous iteration of the series, of course, was here 1 year, in its first year as the United Championship in 2014, but not with these classes. Not with all of these classes, and certainly not in its current form. Now, was that just a lose? Oh, no. There was another car involved there. It was one of the GT Porsches. Was that the 91 Kelly? The Kelly Moss racing car? Certainly a very odd line that was coming out for Dwight Merriman in that number 18 car, but he has managed not to get hit. He just sat there. The Andretti Aston Martin just missing it, and also the 97 Aston as well, just going round the outside. That was a very good bit of Turner Motorsport 97, excuse me, for Chandler Hull, the dark blue of their two machines. So great driving by those there. It was the 96 Turner car that made it in for fuel and tyres. The pits are closed. We will go through the full pit sequence here. And somehow, Jeremy, at that high speed, with that many cars coming along behind, there was no damage to Dwight Merriman's car.
Yeah, he's a lucky guy there, isn't he? Because that could have been very scary. I tell you what, hats off to him there to get on the brakes, stop that car, and he was kind of right in the middle of the racetrack. But if he'd have gone back a bit or forward a bit, that could have been absolutely disastrous. So really, heads up driving there, just stay where he was and wait for the caution to come out and everybody else to slow down so he can get the car pointing in the right direction again. If he tried to kind of rejoin in any way, shape or form, that would have been absolutely catastrophic.
It's completely blind where he was. He was round the corner far enough so that the pit wall was actually blocking the view of anybody coming. And you are so committed at that point, because as you come out of turn 13, once you get the car straightened up, you are accelerating all the way. Yes, 14 is a corner, but all the drivers telling us in pretty much all the classes, if it's dry, you're accelerating all the way through there. And the last thing you want to be doing is lifting, because it'll really affect your speed at the end of that straight down into turn 1. So that's absolutely flat to the boards through there.
Yeah, really, really heads up thinking by him there and all his spotters to just stay where you are and accept the consequences of what you're going to lose a lot of positions, but at least you keep that car in one piece. Well, finally, we can kind of catch our breaths a bit. The GTP cars had put everybody else a lap down, so that's nice and handy. It's just the GTP cars completed 30 laps as it is now, under caution. The LMP2 cars are a lap down, as now, after that pit stop, is Philip Albuquerque in at number 10 Konica Minolta Acura GTP car. So that pit stop, it might have been a good move, but the caution period now has come out at exactly the wrong time for that car. And now what we're seeing is the cars that are trapped behind, for those of you unfamiliar with IMSA rules, the cars that are between the safety car and their individual class leaders, be it LMP2, LMP3 or GT, they can now go past the rest of the field and the safety car and then take up their rightful positions at the back of the pack, because they've not been lapped by their respective class leaders. So that's what's going on right now. Once this has been achieved, then the pits will be open, and it will be open initially for the prototype cars.
So while that is going on, and before that happens, you'll have, I think we're going to see all the GTP cars in, and there'll be a lot of driver changes as well, with 47 minutes having been completed. Let's take a VP Racing in-race update. It is the two Porsches still that lead, 6 from 7. Remember, Matt Jaminet sneaked past Matt Campbell at the short run from turn 1 to turn 2, when all kinds of carnage was going on behind them. So 6 from 7. Then Nick Yellerly in the remaining BMW M Team RLL. The 24 car is still running, but it's many laps down already after being involved in that first lap incident and then also having further problems. Pete Motorani has clawed his way up into 4th position in the number 31 Whelen Engineering Cadillac. And then it's the two private Porsches, the Proton Engineering 59 WeatherTech car, Jimmy Bruni, with Timer von der Helm for JDC Miller Motorsports in the number 5 car. That's the bright yellow car after that. Another car that was caught up in that first lap incident and needs some bodywork changing, Tom Blomqvist for Meyer Shank Racing in their Acura number 60 is in 7th, and Sebastian Porte for Cadillac has had a new nose on that car as well and has been through the pits twice, but that was under the first safety car, so they are still on the lead lap. As Jeremy said, all the LMP2s are a lap down from 9th on down overall. Ben Keating from Paul has changed positions a couple of times with George Kurtz. So it's PR1 Matheson Motorsport Oregon number 52 from Clyde Strike Racing by Algarve Pro Racing number 04. And then it's TDS Racing number 11, the car that hasn't had all of the issues in third, Stephen Thomas from Dan Goldberg from in Tower and Rodrigo Salas. It is Bijoy Garg for Junior 3 and Nolan Siegel, his teammate, is back up in the 7th ahead of Alexander Kareba in 3rd for LMP 3. And GTD Pro is Vassar Sullivan Lexus, the number 14 car from Jordan Taylor in the Corvette. And in GTD, Madison Snow back to the point there ahead of Russell Ward for Winward Racing, looking to make it a double for Winward this weekend. And Brendan Arib for Inception in the McLaren. That car's just been gently doing its thing in this early part of the race. They're in 3rd. That's your VP Racing update. Shea Adam is in the pit lane with the GTP cars.
4 tire changes for all 4 of the Porsche GTPs, as well as driver change. Jimmy Bruni out of the 59 Proton competition. That's we have Rocky into the number 5. Timon Vanderhelm having done his stint for JDC Miller Motorsports. In also the 01 Chip Ganassi Cadillac. That is now Renger van de Zande taking over for Sebastian Bourdais. Let's see if they decide to do a new nose for Colin Brown, who has taken over for the number 60. Yes, they will for that Acura. Fuel and tires for both of the Porsche Penske stops as well, as now we have Felipe Nassa in the 7 and Nick Tandy. Felix, your dad's on board, the number 6. Both of the BMWs were in, as well as there is a wheel nut spinning as the 25 BMW departs. I think that's now Connor De Felipe behind the wheel of that one. Maybe not. No driver change for the 24. As all the LMP2 cars are rolling off now, no driver changes for any of them. Well, at least not yet, because their minimum drive time had not been met.
Very close between the Whelen Cadillac and Pipo Derani and the 2 Porsches. I think Derani has just nipped ahead into 3rd position as they came out of the pits. He almost nicked 2nd position there from Felipe Nasser as they were coming out. Timed stop, I'm thinking, for the Whelen Engineering team. He was actually ahead of the number 7 of Felipe Nasser, but he couldn't get into the acceleration lane and had to drop in behind, but still ahead of Connor De Felipe, who is now in that number 25 car. So very nearly smart pit work, Jeremy Shaw, for the Whelen Engineering team, but it is a game of inches as the GTs are coming in. We'll discuss that in a moment as Shea Adam has the GT field.
Winward Mercedes, almost the first one to hit its marks because it has almost the first box on the pit lane. That is fuel, tires, and her driver changes. Phil Ellis is taking over for Russell Ward. In from the lead of the GTD class is the number 1 Paul Miller Racing BMW. Madison Snow getting out, Brian Sellers getting in. 4 new Michelins going on that car. Also getting 4 new tires is the Inception Racing McLaren. They were our pit stop demo today, and their pit stop was about the finest that I have ever seen for a pit stop demo. But they're also doing a driver change, meaning Brendan Arib out, Frederick Shandorf in, and that is normally the part of the stop that they have to wait the longest on. We've got GTD Pro stops for the number 14 Vassar Sullivan Lexus, tires and fuel for Jack Hawksworth. Number 3 Corvette has had a driver change, and that is now Antonio Garcia as out of the pit lane. First of the GTD stops was that McLaren. Patrick Pile now aboard the FAF Motorsports Porsche with new tires for him as well.
Race off the pit lane on the pit lane speed limiter, and it is the Corvette that gets the jump into the RFID readers for the Michelin tyres at the end of the pit lane. So Antonio Garcia has beaten out Jack Hawksworth, and that's a change of position in the pit lane, Jeremy, proving you've got to have your head on a swivel and you've got to be good in the pits, just as good as you are out on the circuit.
Yeah, we know how good Corvette Racing is in the pits. I believe number 14 car didn't change tyres. That was certainly the plan. That was what I was told for that stop. It would be fuel only for Jack Hawksworth. Presumably Corvette did the same and put in a little bit less fuel. Now, interestingly, this weekend, the Corvette hasn't been quite on the pace as it was recently. One, of course, the last time out at VIR, but there have been some balance of performance changes after VIR and getting ready for here. One of those was to the Corvette, which had a slightly smaller engine restrictor than before, therefore a little bit less horsepower. Similarly, the Lexus had a similar change as well, smaller restrictor, less horsepower. The McLaren added 20 kilos from the last round. The Mercedes, as we talked about earlier on, minus 30 kilograms. And the BMW, they lost a little bit of boost as well. So the Porsches have got a larger restrictor and a little bit more weight, 10 kilograms of weight, but a larger restrictor. So those balance performance changes have kind of been evident as the weekend has progressed, and Corvette seem to have been struggling so far. And they tried to trim out the car, I was told, before this race to try and make it more competitive because of the loss of straight line speed. But clearly that car, as usual at Corvette racing, is working better in the race than it does particularly through the practice sessions.
And it was 4 tyres for Corvette and 4 tyres for Jack Hawksworth and the Vassar-Sullivan Lexus. She's just gone and checked that with the respective team. Antonio Garcia didn't start the race for Corvette, did he? Yes, he did. No, Jordan did. So actually Corvette changed driver as well. So 4 tyres and a new driver for Corvette. Vassar-Sullivan 4 tyres, Jack Hawksworth in the car. Nick Tandy and Felipe Nasser now lead. All right, so we did our VP Racing update before the pit stops. Let's reset it afterwards now so that you can compare, because I know you wrote it all down. 6 from 7 is the same. Porsche, Penske, Motorsport, but now with Nick Tandy and Felipe Nasser behind the wheel. Pipo Derani up into 3rd for Whelen Engineering Cadillac. Combination of people, as I said before, clawing his way up into 4th, and then a good turnaround by the Action Express team who run that Whelen Engineering Cadillac team. Connor De Filippi now installed in the 25 BMW Team RLL BMW M Hybrid V8. It's the 2 privately entered or customer entered 963s next. Proton, the 59, the white WeatherTech car from the bright yellow Mike Rockenfeller driven JDC. Harry Tinknell, Mike Rockenfeller in those 2 cars. Renger van der Zande is in the 01 now. I'm taking over from Sebastian Bourdais. It's the gold-fronted number 01. Colin Brown in the number 60 Meyer-Shank racing car. And Philippe Albuquerque is... Now, is he back on the lead lap now,
yes.
Jeremy? Yes, he is.
Yes, because he did not pit with everybody else. So he then, as they were in the pits, he went past them behind the safety car. He's get to wave around, and he will be back on the lead lap before we get back to green.
Well, do the rest of the VP Racing update, in-race update in a moment. Let's hear from Jordan Taylor. Shea Adam.
Jordan, this championship dream is still alive. The easiest thing, you got to finish in front of the 14 Lexus, and you don't have the fastest car, but you certainly know how to get them in the pits and how to race them on the track, right?
Yeah, I think we need some stuff on our side to be able to win the championship. So yeah, our focus right now is to win races and try to put them, put the pressure on them. So yeah, I was surprised we were able to run up front with those guys. I think traffic was kind of holding up the whole field, and we were able to save a bunch of fuel kind of sitting in that train, and I think that helped us jump them in the pits. But yeah, the guys did a great stop. They changed the starter motor on the grid before the race in 15 minutes, so props to them to keep us in the fight.
Corvette Racing, best in the biz. Good luck the rest of the way.
Thank you.
So we're setting up for the restart. Now, why have we got the 31 Cadillac right alongside Nick Tandy here on the circuit? Not sure what's going on. I know what's going on. Race Control are reordering the line behind the 2 Porsches. I said that there was that the 31 car got out and was unable to pull into the fast lane, and I think Race Control is reordering the running order. But what I don't understand is why Felipe Nasser is in front now of everybody. So have they penalised the 2 Porsches for driving too closely together as they came out of their pits? What kind of decision is that's been made? So Pipo Derani driving alongside and slightly in front of Nick Tandy, and was scored across the line as the leader. And this is part of a reordering, we are led to believe, from Race Control. Running order under review. Now, if you remember, when the 31 car was getting the 31 Cadillac was getting its service, the 2 Porsches rolled first and were very, very close together as they came out of the pits, which meant that Pipo Derani couldn't get into the fast lane. And I'm wondering if that's, Jeremy, is what's happened here, because I've never seen anything like that before.
Yeah, I wasn't looking at the screen at that particular time, so I didn't actually see what happened. I mean, the priority should be for a car that's already in the fast lane. If a car is already in the fast lane, then the cars pulling out from their pit stall will have to let the car in the fast lane go. That's the way the rules are.
Almost
Is that what happened?
There's almost a coming together there. There's all kinds of shenanigans going on here, and if I'm confused, I can only imagine what's going on with Nick Tandy and Felipe Nasser and Pipo Derani in behind the blue Corvette racing car. So let me go through this again. The two Porsches came in 6 and 7. They were serviced 6 and 7, and they left 6 and 7. They were in the fast lane. It was very close for Pipo Derani and the Whelen Engineering team. They, I think, did a timed stop in terms of fuel to try and jump one or both of those Porsches. But by the time they got rolling, the Porsches were already alongside them, line astern, and there was nowhere for the 31 to go, so Pipo dropped in behind the number 7 car. Well, now he's been put in, at the very least, in between them, but he's been in front of Nick Tandy at some stages behind the safety car here. But it appears that race control have decided that the Porsches should have waved the 31 car in to the fast lane, which is not my understanding of the rules, to be honest, Jeremy.
I don't know. I'm telling you what, there's a whole bunch of position changes going on under this caution period, because the number 59 and number 25, they've changed positions since they went back on the racetrack. The 25 went behind the 59, now ahead of him again. Also in LMP2, the number 04 car came out initially, was shown initially ahead of the number 52 car, and they have changed again as well. So it's now 52, Ben Keating back in the lead of LMP2. So I have no idea what's going on, quite frankly. And it's unusually messy.
Running order is under review as of 4 minutes ago, and that was when I first noticed that Pipo Derani had gone up alongside Nick Tandy and in fact was nosing ahead of him, and they were running so close side by side they nearly ran into each other at turn 2. Nothing other than that. Other than now that the race controller commencing the prototype class split, so they must be happy with what is going on. They will restart then. Forget what I said before in our VP Racing in-race update. We'll edit this bit out later. It'll be fine in post. Nick Tandy leads from Pipo Derani in second, so Porsche from Cadillac, from Porsche from BMW. From the two customer Porsches, 59 and 5 in 5th and 6th. Then Renger van der Zande for the Cadillac with the gold front, the 01. Colin Brown and Philip Albuquerque, the top 9, all back on the lead lap. Ben Keating back ahead of George Kurtz, so that is 52 from 04. Dan Goldberg in 3rd in LMP2, Tower Motorsports car. Garrett Grist and Guillaume de Oliveira are now back to making a 1-2 for Junior 3 Racing. And that's the same as when they just went into the pits, 30 from 29, with Dakota Dickerson, who's been very quick this weekend. Really impressed with Dakota in the MLT Motorsports number 54 Ligier. Ligier's in the top 3 in LMP3. The first non-Ligier is the Duquesne of Wayne Boyd, behind the number 17 of AWA. And then bizarre shenanigans. Then behind that is GTD Pro, Daniel Hunkadea for WeatherTech and Ross Gunn for Harter Racing Team. That's the 2 Pro cars. And then Roman De Angelis is ahead of Frankie Montecalvo, 1st and 2nd in GTD. The car that came in the lead of the GTs is now down in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7th position and 4th in class. Brian Sellers has taken over the Paul Miller Racing number 1 car. I'm not sure exactly what is going on, but race control are now saying the running order will be 31, 6 and 7. Well, I don't understand. maybe you can
Well, we
find
need to
this
have a
out.
look again. We need to have a look again,
The-
quite frankly.
Very quickly, let's go to Shea Adam as the safety car lights are out.
We just had 3 P2 stoppers because minimum drive time met for all 3 of these cars. The number 52, which started on pole with Ben Keating, now is Paul-Loup Chaton. We've got the 18 from Aero Motorsport. That is no longer Dwight Merriman. It is now Ryan Dial. And also in the 8 Tower Motorsport, that was Dan Goldberg who started the car today. And now it is Louis Delatraz to the end.
Right, so they've come in. They made a second stop then, those two teams,
Correct.
to get their pro drivers in, because
Correct.
the hour minimum has now been met and had not beforehand. So the only two people to take advantage of that then were number 8 and 52 that came out of first and third positions respectively on the racetrack.
So
And in GT
Go back to Greg.
ranks, by the way, John, those 3 cars out front, or 4 cars out in front, 79, 23, 27 and 12, they all made their pit stops before the caution period came out.
Alan Pross has just said, are we still under the same FCY of being out and made food? They're still behind the safety car. Not anymore, Alan, but what I can't tell you, because I don't understand, is why Pipo Derani has taken the green flag first. He went out of the pits in 3rd position, and he's been gifted or given or put to the front of the field. Pick any one of those and tick whichever box you want. The 2 Porsches are 6 and 7. They left 1st and 2nd out of the pits. They were in the fast lane first, and people couldn't get into the fast lane. I mentioned that at the time. But you have right of way if you're in the fast lane. So unless something's happened when the cars were back out on the track and those cars fell off the track, I can't explain that. So I'm really sorry if you're confused, but we are as well. We'll try and get an explanation from IMSA and from race control as to why that reordering at the front of the field, at least, had to be done. But anyway, Cadillac leads, and then it's the 2 Porsches in 2nd and 3rd. If we get information on that, we will let you know. I'm sure somebody at the track knows, and if they do, if they could let us know, that would be lovely.
And there's a change of position there for 2nd position then in third position, excuse me, in GTD Pro with Jack Hawksworth finding way past the Corvette of now driven by Antonio Garcia.
The only thing that I can think of, Jeremy, is that they have effectively penalised the 2 Porsches for blocking in the pit lane. They both were serviced, they both left. I didn't see that the number 7 slowed down to allow the number 6 to catch up. They were both on the pit lane speed limiter, but the only thing that I can think of is that. Now, we've got a couple of penalties that are penalties. That's going to be a stop and 60 for running the race, the red light at the end of the pit lane for Performance Tech and Collar Bloom, the 38 car. The number 4, that's the number 4, and the number 93, incident responsibility for the RV car. So that will drive through, working on the car outside of the pits stall as well. This is another raft of penalties from those last pit stop, and that is the number 50. What does that say? 59, I think it does. So there are the raft of penalties. That's Harry Tinknell for Proton Competition. That's the car currently in 5th position. All right, at the front of the field, we've got a battle for the lead as Pipo Derani has now been chased by Felipe Nasser, who's gone past his teammate Nick Tandy, who's dropped back down into 3rd. Right, from race control, we are hearing that the 2 Porsches were given an order to go around GTD cars at the reordering of the cars, and they didn't, and the 31 did, and that's why he's been given the position. So nothing to do with the exit of the pits, but to do with the GTP class split. So basically the Porsches didn't react quick enough to the class split. Pipo Derani overtook them as he'd been told to do, and therefore he was allowed to restart first. That's what I'm being told.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Well, at least that's a more sensible explanation. At least.
Yeah,
that's
nothing
for
to
sure.
do with the pits. Nothing to do
Yep.
with the pits.
Yep.
So there we go. Thank you for that race control and that explanation. That might be discussed later. Cloud gathering at Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and still with an hour and a half remaining, it's Pipo Derani leading for Cadillac by 3/4 of a second from Felipe Nasr in second. Nick Tandy's dropped back down to third now, but just put his fastest lap of the race and his car's fastest lap of the race in with a 15.6. And then it's the BMW of Conor De Filippi as into the pit lane.
Ooh, that's Aaron Telitz.
For Aaron Telitz of Lexus in the number 12 car. And I think there's been a coming together because the McLaren, the Inception McLaren, is moving slowly on the pit straight as well. And that is not going to get much further. We're going to have another yellow flag. Right front down. Sure, you can see that from the pit lane. Oh, right rear problem as well. There's been contact with something or the wall. Now, can that McLaren get to the end of the pit wall and turn hard left and get off the racing circuit? I heard right, sorry. Yes, thank you, Jeremy.
Yeah, please don't turn left there.
Yeah, has done, but is continuing around the track, but is off the circuit at the moment. Oh, that looks like the tyre's about to give way on there.
It's not going to go any further, I'm sorry. That's bad news for that team's championship aspirations. Look here.
They were battling, the Corvette was having a big battle. Oh, it was a touch between the... it was a touch between the Lexus and the McLaren as the Corvette was going by. A little bit of an incident.
Yeah.
Frankie Montecalvo, sorry, Jeremy. Frankie Montecalvo realised straight away he had a right front problem and pulled into the pit lane. He's out of the car now. That car has been sent. That car being the number 12 Lexus. That one all a bit bizarre. Didn't look like a huge hit between them. The Inception McLaren trying to take advantage of the GTD Pro car coming through them there and trying to follow it through. Didn't work out.
Yeah, I think it was Aaron Telitz, I think, in the 12 car. They have
yes,
already made their driving changes, both of those two. Look to me
it was
like...
Frankie Montecalvo that brought it in, I think, Jeremy. And they did the change when it came into the pit lane to change the right front tyre.
I thought they'd made the change under yellow.
Yeah, you may be right. Sorry.
But in any case, it looked to me like number 70 car just kind of moved across on number 12 there and initiated that contact from my perspective there. But whatever it is, very unfortunate for both of those two, and particularly it looks like this 70 car is going to come off a lot worse, going to be losing a lot of time here, limping back to the pits, and there's a lot of damage, it would appear. It's just a wheel.
It's just a tyre, I think, Jeremy. It looks way worse than it is because the bodywork's kicked up. Yeah. And actually, that's a crack. I thought it was suspension damage because of the angle that I could see what I thought was the wheel and tyre, but in fact, it's only the tyre. And that's been a fantastic piece of driving to get that car all the way back round. Frederick Schandorf, by the way, behind the wheel of that car, and he's made it all the way back to the pit lane. I mean, he was literally 5 metres, not even that, away from the pit lane entrance. So he's done 2.5 miles to get it back round on 3.5 tyres, I suppose. Meanwhile, at the front of the field, Felipe Nasr has closed in to just on 0.4 of a second to Pipo Derani. Another 3/4 of a second further back is Nick Tandy. Well, all kinds of off-kilter pit stops going on. We'll catch up with Shane in just a moment.
That's mainly, John, the LMP2 cars coming in to change over to their pro drivers. We talked about the fact that number 52 and number 8 came in, made a second stop under that caution before we went back to green. They were the only two to have done so. That was the 1 hour minimum had been met at that stage. But since the green came out, now all the other LMP2 cars have done the same.
Let's check in with Adam and see who else has been down the pit lane. Fred Schandorf get in and has left again. Shea, what else has been going on in your neck of the woods?
Well, just before I move on from the McLaren, they did put a new left rear tire on the car, but it is, wow, it just went to pull into the penalty box and now is continuing back down the lane. I'm not entirely sure that they meant to set that car back out on the racetrack. We did get the thumbs up from the IMSA tech official saying it was safe, even though there was carbon touching the new Michelin that they put on the car. So I don't know how long that would last. Also down the pit lane, we did have a slew of LMP2 drivers come in and stay in, including Stephen Thomas and Rodrigo Salas, handing over to both Mikkel Jensen and Guido Vandegarde in the two TDS cars, the number 11 and 35 respectively. And Pfaff came in for their Porsche, Patrick Pilet, taking fuel and sticker Michelin tires. Could they be back timing at the end of the race already?
Yeah, possibly could. Also in that, Connor Bloom has been assessed a penalty for improper wave by 2 minutes 48, effectively a couple of laps there for that number 38 Performance Tech Motorsport Ligier LMP3. So lose everything you've gained and a bit more. It has to be a penalty. Leaders are in traffic now. Pipo Derani with the Porsche right behind him. Felipe Nasr almost got alongside for a moment, but now has to drop back as they're fighting through about 3 different classes of traffic at the moment. 3 wide across the start line. LMP2, GT Le Mans, and a prototype. Actually, it's a GTD now, but it started life off as a GT Le Mans. So you can almost say that was 4 classes wide there, but there was only 3 cars. Pipo Derani has stretched out to all of half a second at the moment as he goes past the Heart of Racing Aston Martin. That's the GTD car. Roman De Angelis leading that class at the moment for the number 27, ahead of Brian Sellers, back up to 7 for second for Paul Miller Racing, and Phil Ellis for Winwood Racing in 3rd. And GTD Pro, Daniel Hunkadea for WeatherTech in the Mercedes, the white car with the blue and red swoosh on it. And Ross Gunn for the other Heart of Racing car, the one with the red number panels, is in 2nd, with Jack Hawksworth for Vassar Sullivan and the Lexus in 3rd. That's GVP Racing in race update. We did say we would get through it when action allowed. It didn't really allow, but I thought I'd squeeze it in anyway. Now a little bit of a problem for the leader as he's behind Daniel Hunkadella. Remember what we said in the Porsche Keys to the Race, there are places here where it's a bit follow my leader, and he's hit one of them now, and this has been an advantage for the 2nd place car as they come onto the start-finish straight, and Nick Tandy's right there as well. The top 3 go across the line, and they are separated by just on 1 second as they go down into turn 1. There's no opportunity for a pass for Felipe Nasr. Nick Tandy holding a watching brief at the moment. This is top quality stuff, Jeremy. We talk about this all the time, about the traffic, about traffic management, and this is where these top drivers earn their money.
It's fraught stuff out there, isn't it, at the moment? And we saw a pit stop a couple of laps ago. We didn't see, but number 59 car came into the pits. Harry Tinknell is at the wheel now of the Proton Porsche car number 59, so he's way off the back of the pack.
That was a penalty, Jeremy. That was the penalty.
Oh, was it a penalty? I beg your pardon. What was that for? I didn't see that. Oops. Oh,
it was a service outside the box. It was.
2nd place car in LMP3 goes around. Been dicing with his teammate Garrett Grist, Guillermo Oliveira in car number 29. Lose 2nd position. Sheesh. It's all going on, isn't it?
Now, further news, thanks again to Race Control via Aaron at NASCAR Productions. Thank you. Rule 46.5.2 is the reason that the number 31 was given the lead. So if you want to look that up, you can. 46.5.2. I'm sure that was Paul Walter there who passed that along. Thank you, Paul. Official retirement, I think our first one officially. I mean, there's a few cars that aren't coming back, but that is the Racers Edge Motorsport Acura that we saw stranded out on the circuit. Ashton Harrison that was in that car at the time of its demise.
I've got it, John.
Yeah, it is, Jeremy.
46.5.2. Cars must remain in running order and remain left, and when instructed by race control, eligible LMP2 and LMP3 cars must move right and in single file pass any GTD Pro or GTD cars to take position ahead of all the GTD Pro and GTD cars and behind the GTP cars. GTD there's no mention of GTP cars
there, so
exactly.
That's
exactly.
not applicable there.
That's my point.
Interesting.
So that's curious, isn't it? GTD Pro, GTD. Yeah, there's no mention at all of GTP cars there.
Okay. Well, I'm sure the guys at Porsche Penske Motorsport will be flicking through their rule book as well. Hello to Johnny P, who is tuned in, to Joy, SCH, to Jam, to Leverage Promotions as well, and to Anthony Florio as well. Anthony, Anthony. It is Pete Mutarani by a second now, courtesy of Rule 46.5.2. And Pete Mutarani wins this race, he'll get a T-shirt with that on. Felipe Nasser in second for the number 7 Porsche Penske Motorsport. Tandy in third with the number 6 car.
Tell you what, John, it's
back.
Tell you what, it certainly made it more interesting.
Well, yeah, no, absolutely. Hey.
But yeah, that's curious. I mean, I read that rule to me has no mention of GTP cars. So yeah, curious, interesting.
Mentions everybody else other than GTP. Yeah. Basically, yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay, well, so here we go then, and the Harder Racing Aston Martin, having made that very smart decision, as it now turns out, to make that pit stop before the caution period came out.
Yeah. And
they are taking full advantage of that. The Danny Juncadella in number 79, WeatherTech Mercedes did the same, is ahead of the both Aston Martins, have now been split by 5 seconds between the number 23 and number 27, but each 23 car is second in its class, and 27 Aston Martin Roman DeAngelis leads his, just ahead of Jack Hawksworth. Antonio Garcia's hanging right there as well, and then behind Garcia is Brian Sellers in the second placed GTD non-pro car.
We are just on 80 minutes still to go on what has been a very busy race on what our colleague Brian Till likes to call the Dancing Ants, our tracker here from Alcamel. You can have that, by the way, alcamelsystems.com, IMSA, on the positioning part of the site. You can see the track with all the little multicoloured dots. There's not very much space out there at the moment. Remember, it will be a long distance race next year here at Indianapolis Motor Speedway for WeatherTech SportsCar Championship. We don't know how long it's going to be yet. I think after this, it's probably not going to be for all the classes next year. Probably just a few too many cars. Shea Adam, and there'll be more cars next year in pretty much all of the classes as well. So that might actually work in IMSA's favour. Shea, who have you got?
Dan Goldberg out of the Tower Motorsport LMP2. Dan, you're a driver that we associate with LMP3. Just how different was it in a P2 car?
I mean, it was fairly different. We got more speed, so easier to pass the GT cars for sure. But still IMSA, still the same challenges out there and a lot of similarities.
And now you've got Louis Delatraz in your car at the end of this race. He's a pretty good shoe to have. Have you enjoyed working with him?
Oh, it's been great. He's been amazingly helpful and really quick. He's leading right now, so fingers crossed we can pull it out.
Good luck the rest of the way.
Thank you.
Field then with Pipo Derani now under intense pressure from Felipe Nasser, and John Handhoff talked about a little bit ago, say they're in traffic. Well, they're going to be in traffic for the next an hour and 17 minutes pretty much. There's going to be very few clear laps for either of these leaders as they work their way past the slower cars from these 4 other different classes.
Fortunately, our collective has a bigger brain than all of us. And Ryan Parkins, among others, have pointed out that the actual regulation is 46.5. No, it's not. I've just read that as well.
46.5.2 is the one you took.
Yeah, I think it's 46.5.1 actually. Is what we should have been told. So, however, there is a bit in the second part that says cars not following the instructions of rate control in a timely manner may lose their positions to cars responding as instructed. So that's the catch-all. So actually that is in 46.5.2. So it is whilst the reg that was quoted to us doesn't mention the GTPs doing it, what it does mention is that any cars not responding in a timely manner may lose their positions to cars responding as instructed. Pipo Derani did. He was Johnny on the spot. Felipe Nasr and Nick Tandy didn't, and that's why they lost the positions. So that's the simple answer to that. And thank you to the collective for sorting that out for us. Thank goodness we've got people with bigger brains than us who are listening and watching is all I can say. Very useful indeed.
Right, so we're now back to green, hour 35 to go. So we've been 20 minutes now of green flag racing, a little bit more than that. An hour and 15 to go, and be one more pit stop for the GTP cars, so pretty much everybody in this race, to get from here to the end. Possibly two actually for LMP2. Yeah. So 55 laps completed. Pipo Derani still out front as he negotiates the traffic here, heads down the Holman Boulevard. He's got another more gaggle of cars ahead of him. There's two Porsche Penske Motorsport machines tracking him as closely as they can at this stage. So maybe a 15-20 car lengths between each of those three leaders at the moment. That's going to fluctuate wildly.
So, a messy race in all kinds of respects so far. Let's hope that this last hour and 15 minutes are a little bit more stable, consistent, and a bit more racing orientated. So, where are the gaps at the moment? Still Felipe Nasr right with the leader. Well, and as I say that, he gets separated by a couple of cars as they're going through traffic, Jeremy.
Yeah, the fastest car on the track last time around, it hasn't to the last couple of laps, it's Harry Ticknell, and that was 59 car. Boy, that was tight. Working between a couple of GCD cars there for, I think it was the second of the Porsche, wasn't it? Nick Tan going through that chicane at turns 5 and 6. It's cost him a bit of ground. And golly, it's non-stop action. I mean, super intense, really mentally demanding of all of the cars drivers in all of the classes right now. Threading the needle there was Nick Tandy.
As you might expect, he is in third position, still only 1.8 seconds behind the leader, and had to make a decision between the two yellow cars, the 77 Volt Racing Porsche and the number 12 Lexus RCF. And Nick Tandy being Nick Tandy, didn't want to wait until the next piece of straight. That is about wide enough for a 963. Yeah, it was about 1.1 963s with that gap, and therefore that was clearly perfectly enough for Nick to go through. When you've grown up racing mini stocks on dirt ovals, you see a gap and you go through it as quickly as possible. So Pipo Derani stretched out to 1.1 seconds now. In all of this, I have to say, I've completely lost when everybody pitted. So when did everybody last pick, Jeremy? 31, 7 and 6? That was during that.
All the leaders pitted under yellow, which was on lap 32. So that was since green. We've had 16 laps of green and 8 laps of yellow. So it'll be a little while yet before they need to come onto pit lane. But once again, the fastest car on track is Harry Ticknell. He's absolutely flying in car number 59. 1 minute 16.1 last time around. The previous lap was 1:16.5. The previous lap was 1:16.3. And he's absolutely flying. That car's best lap of the race was a 1:15.8. The fastest lap of the race was a 1:15.5 by, I think that was the number 7 car in the early stages for Matt Campbell, the pole sitter. But Ticknell, he's off strategy with everybody else, having had to serve that penalty a little while ago, but he is flying.
He's dropped down to 9th position. He is just coming round to turn 12 at the moment, and that has put him some 30 seconds or so behind the leader of the race, but he's still on the lead lap. Durrani just heading down Ullman Boulevard towards turn 7 now as Harry comes through and crosses the line now and clicks on to lap number 58. So yeah, like I said, about 44 seconds behind. He's had a bit of traffic there, but still on the lead lap, so still in the running, but with a bit of ground to make up, and maybe, just maybe, they're going to have to play some strategic cards going forward. We'll be looking for the BDO Nose Strategy Award, charitable donation to the team that wins that, or the individual that wins it, of their choice, and also a very lovely trophy that have been being awarded at the end of each of the IMSA WeatherTech SportsCar Championship races this year, and we'll see how that plays out. At the moment, we haven't really seen enough of green flag racing and strategy to really work out who's done the right things, Jeremy. There's been some people on track who've done the wrong things, quite clearly, but not sure that we can say, well, there's a couple of people who took their chances just before the last yellow, wasn't there? And that may yet play out in their favour.
Yeah, certainly in the GT ranks there, with the WeatherTech Mercedes and the Two Heart Racing Aston Martins making that move. That certainly worked out extremely well for them, having made their pit stops before the yellow flag. So when everybody else packed up behind the safety car, they stayed out on track and moved from the back, which where they fall after their pit stops, to the front, while everybody else takes on service, and then will resume behind those 3 cars that made their stops earlier on. So that certainly played out in their favour, and that's those are the biggest movers, I think, so far.
All of a sudden, Pipo Derani has squeezed away 2.3 seconds. If there was a little cushion there before, there's a very nice, comfortable 2-piece sofa there now. And 2.2 seconds is the gap. Tandy closing in on Felipe Nasser, but it's traffic, and Porsche keys to the race. Use the opportunities to get by, because you're going to have patience through the twisties. Be nimble with your strategy and take the track position when you can get it. And let's be honest, both of those 2 Porsches there, they should have been first and second. They did not react to race control's instructions quickly enough. And that's cost them. Nick Tandy also lost the 2nd place as well in all of that kerfuffle. Just after the restart, actually, that was. In the classes, Louis Delatraz leads LMP2 for Tower Motorsport now by very pleasant for him, 13.3 seconds over PR1 Matheson Motorsport, 8 from 52 from Mikkel Jensen for TDS in 3rd place. Paul-Loup Chatton having taken over the car that was in the lead and when it was being driven by Ben Keating. Garrett Grist for Junior 3 Racing still leads in the number 30 LMP3, but now it's MLT Motorsport. We mentioned Dakota Dickerson. He's been driving that MLT number 54. Really had some engine problems, that team, earlier on in the weekend, but they have got around those, and Dakota Dickerson driving that car very well indeed to 2nd, Jeremy.
Indeed so, and he's whittled the gap down just a little bit to Garrett Grist. It was over 3 seconds. It's now, what was it last time around? Oh, yikes. Oh, yeah, there's a car between them now, isn't there? Because Mikkel Jensen's moved his way between them. But it's inside a couple of seconds now, I think, between those two leaders in LMP3. They're behind, or the LMP2 cars, other than number 8 and 52, are behind because they made their pit stops under green flag conditions after the restart in order to make their driver changes. Number 8 and 52, as we talked about earlier on, they made their stop, their driver change with a second pit stop under yellow before we went back to the green. So even though they started, they restarted behind the other cars, they were able to escape now, and they've got a pretty handy lead. 20 Chatin is now ahead of Mikkel Jensen in third position. So there's two different strategies. A great strategic call, certainly, for Tower Motorsports and PR1. And Louis Delatraz has extended that lead quite rapidly over the last few laps between number 8 himself and number 52 car chasing of Paul-Luc Chatin. Relatively clear laps there for our race leader, Pipo Derani. 16-1 for him, or both the two leaders. 1.6 seconds between them at the moment. And for the first time in a while, they managed to turn 3 laps in the 16s consecutively. I fancy that might change fairly rapidly.
I think you might be right there, Jeremy. Colin Brown on the fight back as well after coming to pretty much a dead stop. Turn 1. There's a bit of damage, I think, on that car as well, wasn't there, at the start of the race, necessitating a nose change. There's a joke in there somewhere about more rhinoplasty than something, but I think that'll probably be severely career limiting if I go any further down that track at the moment. But insert you know, a phrase of your own choice after that. But we have had more nose changes than I've seen for a very, very long time through the classes here. He's in 7th position, some 1 minute away from the leader, just put in a 1:16.7. Felipe Nasr trying to claw back the leader, and Nick Tandy coming through with them as well. And it's these little pockets of traffic that are just proving difficult for the two Penske Porsche Motorsport cars to try and get that gap back. It's always difficult for the leader, of course. You're the first one to come on the pockets of traffic, and sometimes you can kind of wake people up if they're having their own battles, and everybody's having their own battles here at the moment. Derani on the far side of the circuit with 2 LMP3 cars, flashes his headlights, comes round the outside of both of them and is pushed to the outside wall as he brakes for turn 12, and that's going to give an opportunity for Felipe Nasr to close in on him. He's got to switch to the right-hand side, then back to the left, and Nasr's right there. Exactly what we were talking about. Now accelerating round the outside of the 2 junior prototypes and onto the front straight. The 74 Riley, one of those, and Nasr is right there. Traffic giveth, traffic taketh away down towards turn 1, and this race is reinvigorated. Nasr to the right, and a big lock up by the leader. He's gone wide, and the Porsche's through. Retakes the lead, and here's Nick Tandy. He'll go around the outside as well. He's on the correct side of the track for the right-hander, and there is very uncharacteristic mistake by Pipo Derani, frustrated by the 2 battling junior prototypes in front of him. Got caught up going through 12 and 13, and then made the mistake on the brakes going into turn 1. Felipe Nasr leads from Nick Tandy, who wants to be by on his teammate. A tiny error from Pipo Derani, Jeremy, as he was going into turn 1, maybe distracted by the Sean Creech Motorsport number 33 car in front. But at that point, he'd ran wide, Nasr went through, and Nick Tandy needed no second invitation either.
Great stuff, and that battle of the LMP3 cars, they negotiated at turn 12, 13, 14. That was a battle for 5th position between Josh Burden and Guillermo Oliveira. That was a great little battle they were having. And they were having their own race, which they're quite entitled to do. It's up to the leaders to find their way past, which they did. And then, as you say, Pipo Derani just left his braking just a fraction too late at turn 1, slid wide. The pursuing car initially of Felipe Nasr also locked up his brakes, but not nearly so badly as the race leader, and that enables him to sneak through and into the lead. And it's going to be an uphill battle now, I think, for anybody other than the Porsche Penske Motorsport pair to win this race. Great stuff.
Nick Tandy wants his lead back, I think, as well. So just coming down to the last 1 hour, 60 minutes to go, and 65 laps having been completed. And, well, we said a little bit untidy. We hoped for something a little more usual. And, you know, issues in traffic, that you've got to take that in multi-class racing. And we've got all of the classes here, all 5 classes effectively, although 4 different types, ruled sets of cars in 5 classes, because there's 2 GT classes that use identical performance cars, and you're always going to be struggling if you are the cars at the front of the field. And Felipe Nasr now with a 3/4 of a second lead, but a huge amount of traffic right in front of them. And is this the opportunity? Where is Pipo Derani? He's dropped well back, 3.2 seconds back. So as the Porsches come through the traffic, another lock up by the leader, and here comes Nick Tandy. As he closes on his teammate, goes to the... Oh, there's a touch between the 2 Porsche Penske Motorsport cars as they went through the chicane. They've both gone across the white line there. Nick Tandy still trying to get through on Ullman Boulevard as they go down towards turn number 7, 3 wide, and the track wasn't enough. They were over the white line on drivers left there. And Felipe Nasr defending relatively stoutly, even though that is his teammate behind him, Jeremy.
Yeah, wow. There's a lot of prestige at stake here, isn't there? Team pride as well. You've got to play the team game, but at the same time, you want to be on top dog, particularly at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway with the boss watching on. Roger Penske not only owns the team, owns the track, owns just about everything in motor racing. He is Mr. Motor Racing. What a fantastic ambassador he has been for the sport over these many, many years. And he's done everything. I mean, he's driven competitively himself. He's owned massively successful teams, owned racetracks, just everything about it. And he's a class act all the way around. Each of these 2 drivers at the wheel of his cars right now want to win this race.
That was rather too close for comfort, and I can imagine the phone call coming in to those 2. Something along the lines of "play nicely, chaps." There may be other words involved in that, in fairness.
We've just seen a slew of pit stops there in GTD. We've got an hour to go now, so that the GTD cars can get to the end from here. We just saw number 14 car was in, number 1 car was in, number 3 car was in, and now several others following suit as well.
Let's get the details on that. Shea Adam was watching, and we've also got some GTP action as well, Shea.
Yes, the 60 Meyer-Shank Racing Acura is into the pit lane. This is fuel and tires, no driver change. Colin Brown staying aboard. New dad, Colin Brown, who's about, 4 days into parenthood as far as that is concerned. As far as the GTDs who came in, we had the 66 Grady Racing Acura, the 96 Turner Motorsport BMW, the 57 Windward Racing Mercedes, the number 1 Paul Miller Racing BMW, the 14 Vassar Sullivan Lexus, the 3 Corvette, and the 23 Heart of Racing Aston Martin, all doing fuel and tires. The 27 Heart of Racing Aston Martin, that's the GTD car, fuel, tires, and a driver change. Roman DeAngelis finally jumping out of the car, handing over to Marco Sorensen. And a change also for Cawthorne Preston Motorsports. They did a driver change as well as the fuel and tires.
Okay. So I reckon that's a tiny bit early for Colin Brown to get to the end, Jeremy. 57 minutes to go. He'll have to do a bit of fuel saving, do we reckon, in that number 60 Acura?
Yeah, a little bit of fuel save probably, but there could be a caution period at any time, can't there, out there on the racetrack? So if there is a caution period, they should be fine to get to the end, I would suggest. So they're at the back of the pack in any case. So take that gamble; it's worth the risk. They were in 7th position. Not really making up much ground. They had closed in on the 2 cars ahead of them, which was a number 01 and a number 10. Colin Brown was as much as 4 seconds behind them, only about 7 or 8 laps to go. He closed up that gap, So what the heck, they think if with fuel saved, they can get to the end from here. And if there's a caution, they should be fine on fuel. And they've made what will be their final pit stop.
Here's Nick Tandy going for the lead into the first corner. Identical Porsche 963s. He swings back to the left-hand side to try and get the cut back on Felipe Nasr. They are now 5.2 seconds ahead of Pete Durrani since they've gone past the Brazilian in the Wheeling Engineering Cadillac. Just that little lock-up. He's not had the pace. He's 4 or 5 tenths of a second a lap away from what's going on at the front of the field. Nick Tandy did a 17.4 last time around, 17.6 from Conor de Felipe. That's a 2 tenths of a second gain on Pete Durrani. That BMW's not out of it yet either, Jeremy. Just 10 seconds away from the lead and only 5 seconds away from the podium.
Yeah, but I don't think able to maintain pace, certainly not with the Porsches. Potentially with the Cadillacs, yes. But again, you talked about it earlier on, track position, important, and the number 31 car has that right now.
Oh, Porsche keys the race in the Michelin Countdown to Green. Track position, always going to be important. Don't forget, although the checkered flag ends this race in 56 minutes time, it's only the start of the conversation. Our Michelin post-race tech show, exclusively live on RS2, part of the Radio Show Limited network of channels, gives our IMSA Radio and IMSA TV audience the chance to ask questions. We'll get them answered. We'll have some of the drivers who've made the headlines talking to us live as well. IMSA Radio and IMSA TV audience. It's just on IMSA Radio, that, by the way, RS2, and that is Michelin Post Race Tech, hashtag Michelin PRT to @IMSA Radio on the platform formerly known as Twitter. Now let's pick up some other battles. Third and fourth position under dispute at the moment in LMP3 with Garrett Grist and Matt Bell. Matt Bell using traffic there and going through for AWA. Matt Bell originally from the northeast of England, not raced here before. That was a nice use of the Porsche that was right there, actually. The 77 Volt car just recently out of the pits and came through and just got involved in that for a moment. And so that is a change of position. The AWA car up in third. So that's both the Junior 3 racing cars dropping down in LMP3, which is led by Wayne Boyd now for AWA.
Yeah.
Garrett Grist still in second. Yeah, pit stop's correct. They've just come out the pits. So that was an outlap for Matt Bell and Garrett Grist and Guillaume de Oliveira. So Matt Bell switching on the Michelin tyres in the Duquesne a little bit quicker than Garrett Grist. Matt, a very experienced driver. Mike Rockenfeller comes into the pits for JDC Miller Motorsports, 54 minutes remaining. Well, that's more like it, Jeremy. That is more like it for Mike Rockenfeller. 50 seconds away from the lead as he came into the pit lane, but he shouldn't have to come back in again.
Correct. In the number 60 car, they were definitely taking a gamble there on there being another cautionary period. So I think from now it should be no problem to get to the end, and Mike Rockenfeller, the first, should be able to do so and run full rich to the end. He was running in the seventh position with the 60 car having stopped.
Yeah.
But he certainly doesn't have enough speed, it would appear, to be a major trouble to anybody else ahead of him.
Now, Shea Adam was watching that. Looked like a set of scrubbed tyres. Was that a full set that went on there, Shea, to Rockenfeller's car?
Negative. Only left side tires for Mike Rockenfeller as they are waiting on the energy replenishment to be completed, i.e. fuel going in the car and actual energy going back in the car to recharge the batteries. Brakes are smoking on this number 5 JDC Miller Motorsports Porsche 963, and Mike Rockenfeller takes back out on the track. Team doesn't want to see it until after the checkered flag. Thank you very much.
Indeed, so been a great story for John Church and indeed for Proton and Christian Reed, who two Porsche customer teams here in IMSA. We've had Proton also racing a similar looking car, slightly different specification in WEC for the Porsche, and so they've had a little more experience in running that car. Whether we'll see, certainly see John Church back next year. Some discussion about whether we'll see Proton for the whole season or perhaps just some of the longer races. It looks like the Hertz team Jota second car that we thought might do the longer races here. If they can get the entry to the WEC, Sam Hignett talking to John de Geese and SportsCar 365, saying that is they look like they want to concentrate on the FIA WEC. But don't worry, we've got plenty more GTPs coming next year, and that's going to make, I think we're going to have double figures of GTPs pretty much at every race again, and there'll be more than that in some of the big races, the longer races. 5 Michelin Endurance Challenge races next year, including one here of indeterminate length. So far, that hasn't been announced. Expect to get the details of next year's calendar that was missing, that included, as well as Innovative Mazda MX-5 and the Porsche Deluxe Carrera Cup. Hopefully get that at Petit Le Mans. I do wonder whether the experience here might make IMSA think about which classes they have here for that race next year. So, into the pit lane for the Proton, and the number 59 car. Slightly, I talked about the differences. There's slight differences in the aero at the back of the car between the two homologations for IMSA and WEC, but the biggest work that you have to do if you were going to bring one car from one to the other is actually nothing to do with performance at all, and that's going to be a 4 Michelin tyre stop. Nothing to do with the performance. It's actually to do with the measurement of the car by the series. There's a series specified and provided wiring loom for all the series monitoring systems in real time, including the torque sensors on the drive shafts and various other bits and pieces, and they are completely different between IMSA and the FIA WEC. It's a 12-hour job, one of the teams told me, to swap those over. So when we say not the work of a moment, we mean not the work of a moment. 6 hours and all classes here next year is what we're being told. So with the additional cars, how many can we have here? What is the upper limit? We've had 48 today. It's a long pit lane, but what is the track licensed for in terms of multi-class racing at this level? I don't think we've got a problem with pit lane space here, Jeremy. We'll probably double the size of the field, but not sure that that would give us the entertainment that we would hope for.
Sheesh, that's a scary thought, isn't it? We've got plenty of cars here right now. It's super busy out there. It's awfully difficult to keep track of it. To be perfectly honest, I'm not sure we need another 20 or 30 out there. But you raised the point earlier on that IMSA is going to have problems next year fitting all the cars that are seemingly going to be entered in each of the classes all around. It's a nice problem to have, though.
Yeah, and I think some people are going to miss out, which is, unfortunate for them. But it's, as John Doonan said, it's a great problem to have. We should have an entry list at least with the cars and teams at Petit Le Mans for 2024. They might not have all the drivers on, obviously deals still being done, but we should have an entry list for the full season entries. Drivers in November. In for the Konica Minolta Acura. Was that the rear wheels just spinning there a little bit? Shea Adam is there.
Spinning, but I did see them attempting to take them off the wheel nut, not actually functioning. 4 scrub Michelin tires going on this car, and as you would hope, the last thing to be done is the fueling, the refueling and the energy replenishment-ing, if you will. I'm making up good words now, but that's fine. Waiting on that, a lengthy stop for the energy replenishment. Now, Felipe Albuquerque goes out for this final stint, and coming in 2 pit boxes further behind them will be the Whelen Engineering Cadillac, because Pippo Durrani has to get out of that car. Alexander Sims is yet to drive.
55 cars this year was the maximum here. We had 48. The other question I want to know about next year, which I presume we'll find out at Petit Le Mans, Saturday or Sunday race. My money is still on a Saturday night race into the darkness. We've had that yesterday and it was great. Loved it. Really atmospheric. And I think the idea is to have the WeatherTech race on network television next year. Should find out about broadcasting as well for next year at Petit Le Mans, when John Doonan, the president of IMSA, stands up to do the state of the series.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, isn't it, John?
State of the sport, sorry. I hope it's Saturday. I really hope it is a Saturday night race for the WeatherTech. Of course, that would mean that the
race leader in?
As the race leader comes in, yeah, absolutely. And this will be their last stop with just 46 minutes to go. Shea Adam is watching Felipe Nasr into the pits, which means Nick Tandy takes over the lead. I presume it'll be next time around, Shea. What's happening down there?
Felipe Nasr is getting 4 tires for this car, very lightly scrubbed in Michelin rubber, as well as fuel, no driver change. For the number 31 Whelen Engineering Cadillac, it is also 4, but slightly more scrubbed in Michelin tires, and the driver change going on right now. Alexander Sims jumping aboard Pimpo Durrani, not even having a good race to be tired enough to stroll over to the wall. He runs and then jumps up onto it. The car is off the air jacks, waiting on the energy replenishment. Now let's see which of these cars is going to get moving first. I would think the Cadillac might just have that trick up their sleeve, but no, the 7 is off and moving and has a car in the fast lane, needs to cede to the 04 CrowdStrike entry. Ben Hanley behind the wheel. The Cadillac is still sitting in the box. Now it goes to leave, and the Porsche, very impatient, wants to get around the LMP2 car because it knows it's going to have to handle off Alexander Sims.
Back out and off the pit lane speed limiter as in comes Nick Tandy. And so Shea Adam doesn't have to move very far to see Nick into the pit lane for his final stop under the watchful eye of Roger Penske. Shea.
Apologies about that, John. I really should have just turned around and seen the purple headlights on the number 6 prototype. Nick Tandy staying aboard for this one, and again, lightly scrubbed Michelin tires going on all 4 corners of this car. Windshield tear off. The crew really likes Nick if they want him to be able to see. Waiting on the energy replenishment and the fuel to continue on, and the guy actually, with the nozzle attached to the car, shaking his head in disbelief at how long this takes, because once again, he is the last crew member touching this car. We're at 29, 30, 31, 32, 33. And far as time in this car stationary in the pit box. Now Nick Tandy leaves 36 seconds stationary in the pit box, and let's see where he cycles out on the racetrack. I think he's still safely ahead.
Well, on the outlap, the 7 was off the circuit. That might have cost him a couple of seconds. Nick Tandy rolling. This is for the lead of the race, current effective lead of the race. Currently, that is held by Connor De Filippi, but he'll pit now. The 7 of Felipe Nasr is onto the front straight, and Nick Tandy's out, and he's blending back into turn 2. The 2 Porsches have swapped in the pit lane, or at least in the pit stop exchange, Jeremy, and Nick Tandy is back to the front for the first time since that full course caution came out, well over an hour ago.
Wow, interesting, isn't it? And yeah, that if he was off the road, yeah, that could have been a costly slip for that number 7 car.
And into the pit lane for Connor De Filippi. Shea Adam is there watching more strategy playing out.
New Michelins, but they are left sides only for Connor De Filippi. They had the time to change all 4, but they elected not to. Maybe they think that having a bit of heat in the right side tires will help Connor on his outlap.
Yeah, there's a replay locked up at turn 7, did car number 7. You know, we've talked about it all season long, how difficult it is to get these Michelin tires up to optimal pressures and temperatures, and that's a perfect example of it right there for the number 7 car at turn 7. Cost him several seconds there, and almost certainly enough to give up the lead to Nick Tandy, who's just going to make sure he doesn't make the same sort of mistake. I mean, it's really tricky out there in these GTP cars with all that energy that they have to put down onto the road.
Just under 43 minutes to go. This race 6 hours next year, with all of the classes and a potential of 55 cars. If you've been entertained this year, make sure you're already thinking about next. And if you're here on the grounds and you're not dashing away, got a bit of time tomorrow, get into the Indianapolis Motor Speedway Museum. Give yourself a couple of hours or so to have a wander around there. Absolutely fantastic place to go. Thoroughly recommended. About to undergo some improvements. I'm not sure what they could do to improve it, to be honest. It is absolutely fantastic, but huge investment going into the museum, as well as the rest of the facilities here at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. At IMSA Radio, hashtag Michelin PRT for your questions, points arising, or things that you have noticed on the 2 hours and 40-minute race. And we are into the last 40 minutes or so, Jeremy.
Yeah, just looking at the LMP2 class cars, they've all made their pit stops, well, made pit stops, most of them have at least, within the last 8 or 10 minutes. But what's interesting about that is number 52 car was the first to come onto pit lane, and I reckon it was 48 minutes to go. I don't think they can do 48 minutes. I think that's a problem. The number 8 car was in 2 laps later on, that was 46 minutes to go, which again I think is a bit of a stretch. So those cars, those 2 cars that made the stop under, made the second stop under caution to make their driver changes, number 52 and number 8, that worked out well there, but without there being yet at least any other caution period since then, do they have enough fuel to get to the end from here? I think it's going to be really, really tight.
A couple of people asking about up to 28 Celsius. That is 82 Fahrenheit. Just for Kashiti Venkateshwar, who's tuning in and was wondering about where that was in terms of the track temp at IMSA Radio. If we can answer any of your questions through this part of the race, we will. And of course, in Michelin Post Race Tech, hashtag Michelin PRT. If you're going to stay with us, that's live and exclusive on RS2, part of the Radio Show Limited network of channels, all free, no blocks, no breaks. Global broadcasting for IMSA Radio, as it has been for the last 7 or so years. Nick Tandy then, 7 seconds to the good now from his teammate Felipe Nasser, with Connor de Felipe now up into 3rd place, ahead of Alexander Sims in 4th. 5th is Colin Brown.
So what, John, there's a tremendous battle going on in LMP3. I think everybody has made their final pit stops now, and Wayne Boyd in number 17 AWA car has leapfrogged his way to the front by about 2.5 seconds over Garrett Grist, number 30, but right behind Garrett Grist, number 74 and 54. So a really good battle there for 2nd place at the moment. Could that become a 3-car battle, as Nick Tandy has extended his lead at the front? Now he's way out in front, 8 seconds plus now the lead over Nasser. And can Connor de Felipe close in on the Porsche? I don't think so, in 3rd position. The other gainer during that round of pit stops in GTP, John, was the number 60 car for Meyer Shank Racing. The question, however, is, can it get to the end without another stop?
24 seconds away from the lead. Wayne Boyd's been doing great work for AWA. First time here, and he's piloted that Duquin very nicely, the number 17 car. He got in, I think, during the last yellow, didn't he? He's effectively going to be doing a double as far as his driving is concerned. And he was hassling the Junior 3 cars for some time, and actually led the race on the pit stop cycle before. I seem to remember mentioning his name in one of the VP Racing rundowns that we did as leading the race ahead of Junior 3, but I'm not sure they were all on the same pit stop, same number of pit stops completed at that time, to be honest. But he's converted that, as you rightly said, Jeremy, into a 4-second lead now over Garrett Grist for Junior 3 Racing, the 30 car in 2nd. Then it's Josh Burton for the number 74, the blue and red car, the Ranch 74 Riley machine, That's Duquesne from Ligier and MLT Motorsports. In fact, Dakota Dickerson's just gone through into third position, past Garrett Grist as they were coming through that time around.
They've both passed Garrett Grist, haven't they?
Josh Burden and Dakota Dickerson, yeah. Matt Bell, who was having that scrap with Garrett Grist on the outlap, is down in 5th position. And Guillaume de Oliveira for the other Junior 3 car, the 29, is in 6th position. But it's a good run for the green and black car on the far side of the circuit now, going through the S's. And with a bit of, for once, a bit of clear air, actually. He's heading down towards turn 12. He's dropped down back into the infield as he's effectively going through the short chute the wrong way. And into where the pit lane entry is. He stays out, cuts the car to the left-hand side, rides the blue and white curbs, and now lines the car up to get the throttle on all the way down that long start-finish straight, down the front straight.
Yeah, he's done a really good job, and all of the championship rounds for LMP3 this season, the season-long championship rounds, of which Daytona Roach 24 was not won, have been won so far by number 74 car. So everybody else in the class is looking to break that streak. And for this number 17 team, they've been knocking on the door. And Wayne Boyd and Anthony Mantello, who's once again did a really good stint, the Toronto, Canada native. Before handing over to the Northern Irishman, Wayne Boyd, in position right now, and Wayne has turned some really nice laps over the last few laps and extended his lead over that battle for second place. Josh Burton in number 74 has moved his way up into second now, but doesn't seem to be making any ground at this stage, with only 35 minutes remaining on the Northern Irishman. Meanwhile, out front, that strategy of staying out longer in number 25 BMW. Before the round of pit stops, number 25 BMW was about 5 seconds behind the number 31 Whelen Engineering Cadillac. It's now 9 seconds ahead and extending its lead over the Cadillac. It's the BMW car number 25 in 3rd place.
Yeah, good stuff from the BMW M team, RLL, the M Hybrid V8. Might that be one of our nominations for the BDO Knows Strategy Award? Let's go through the other categories we've talked about. Tower and TDS and PR1 in LMP2, 8, 11 and 52 your top 3. We've talking about LMP3. The top 4 in GT are all GTD Pro cars. It's Patrick Peele back at the front for Pfaff Motorsport. How did that happen after that early penalty and the mistake by his teammate breaking formation before the line? They've got 4.6 seconds on Daniel Hunkadea.
Good question.
Yes. Well, they've been helped with a couple of safety cars, but even so, that is pretty stout by Pfaff Motorsport. They're very good at stealthing their way through the field. WeatherTech Racing in second for the number 79 of Daniel Hunkadea in the Mercedes. 3rd different manufacturer in 3rd. Now, that was a bit of a strategy ploy by Hartner Racing Team. They gambled on when the yellow might come out, and Roscoe in 3rd position now in their GTD Pro car, with Ben Barnicat for Vassar Sullivan and Alexis RCF GT3 in a great position for the championship, because the Corvette of Antonio Garcia is behind him in 5th. In GTD, Brian Sellers, and possibly here again an opportunity for a BDO nomination. They lost a few positions from Paul Miller Racing, but they're back at the front with Brian Sellers. Just half a second, though, ahead of Phil Ellis for Winwood Racing in their AMG 57. And 3rd, it's Loris Spinelli for the Lamborghini. Pass on the track down at turn 1, GTP action, and that was for 5th position. Philippe Albuquerque in the blue and black Acura overtakes Colin Brown in the white and pink Acura. New 5th place.
Yeah, and not a lot of love lost between those two teams, has to be said, but clearly Colin Brown is just in no position to fight. I think he is having to save fuel as much as he possibly can, and just unable to offer any sort of a fight to Philip Albuquerque, who goes past quite cleanly. And next to be looming his mirrors will be Renger van der Zande in the 01 Cadillac, who's about 6.5 seconds behind him at the moment.
Jeremy Shaw, Shea Adam and John Hindhaugh for the last 32 minutes Is there a battle still to be had at the front of the field? Are there some more headlines to be written? Tower Motorsport TDS PR1, round about 10 seconds between the top three in LMP2. And about the same actually as well in P3. The front of the field, Nick Tandy has got 10 seconds on the field at the moment. In fact, nearly 11. And he's got no fuel worries. They timed that perfectly. And that has been a super run. Let's go to Shea Adam. We were pausing, which actually was more of a rhetorical question about how Faf got themselves back to the lead in GTD Pro. But Shea, with her inquisitive mind and nature, has sought out an answer for us.
I wandered up and I asked Steve Bortolotti, and thanks again to Steve for being so candid. I said, how did you just faff your way to the front of the field once again? And he laughed and said, we owe you a pit stop. We're not going to make it. I said, how close are we? And he goes, a really, really, really long yellow, like to the end of the race.
Right, okay. Thank you. They've been down the pit lane 3 times, but of course one of those was the drive-through penalty. So that is not then a true position. Nick Tandy carving his way through traffic. Thank you, Steve Bortolotti, for that, by the way. As he always tells us the truth. Good set of people. We've got some great people in our pit lane, haven't we, Jeremy? It's really good that Shea can pop to pit. And 9 times out of 10, she'll get an answer. 9.5 times out of 10, actually, to be honest. Phil Ellis still hassling the back of Brian Sellers in the battle for GTD honours. With Laura Spinelli there. That's 1.4 seconds between the top 3 in GTD. The red, white and black number 1 BMW from the Mercedes of Winwood Racing, the sort of dark grey blue car. And then Laura Spinelli in the Lamborghini with the green on it. We've got great, I mean, in the classes, Jeremy, that have variety. So take out LMP2 in that. It's a Duquesne from a Ligier, from a Duquesne in LMP3. It's a 2 Porsches, a BMW, a Cadillac, and 2 Acuras in the top 6 in GTP. In GTD Pro, Porsche, Mercedes, Aston, Lexus. And GTD, BMW, Mercedes, Lamborghini, Aston, BMW in the top 3. Oh, problems! And that is Alexander Sims, who's gone straight on at turn 1, the fourth place car for Wheeland Engineering. This is the number 31 car with the red front. Missed his braking point at turn 1. Sort of found the escape road, but not without, I'm afraid, maiming a couple of the bollards down there. Decided to bail out pretty early and then didn't quite get the pace down and just about got through onto the escape road. Really, really fortunate there. Bit of cadence braking to try and unlock the right front Michelin tyre so he doesn't flat spot it. These tyres have got to go to the end of the race, Jeremy. And he did actually a reasonably good job there after making the mistake. He did get through that escape road.
That is true, yeah. But and the good news is he has 10 seconds in hand over Philip Albuquerque, who's next up to the road behind him. So by going through that escape route, as we saw last night in the Michelin Pilot Challenge race, if you nail it properly, you lose barely any time at all going through there, which I think is wrong. But that's the way it is. And I don't think there's any penalty for hitting those bollards, and they're not really going to damage the car because these cars are pretty stout. So I think that's something that needs to be changed, quite frankly.
Well,
you need to
at Daytona, Jeremy, on the Le Mans chicane on the back straight, you've got to come to a dead stop, don't you?
Yeah.
And then go again. And that would be a simple thing to do there. If he was doing an auto test, that would be 2.5 seconds, wouldn't it? He would get added for hitting the cords.
Absolutely. In autocross, you're okay to go on the grass, that's not a problem. But the bollards is a problem.
Yeah, absolutely. Auto testing and auto grassing, done both. Great fun, great way to get into motorsport. Love doing auto tests. Flicking the car around, handbrake turns, reverse flicks. Now you're talking my language. At the front of the field of GTD, we mentioned this. It's Brian Sellers with Phil Ellis of Winwood Racing right behind the Paul Miller Racing BMW, they've clinched a title by starting at the moment, earlier on, as Patrick Pilet, by the way, has been in and out in that Pfaff Motorsport number 9 car. That cedes the lead of the Pro class to Daniel Hunkadea for WeatherTech Racing, Ross Gunn second for Harter Racing, and Ben Barnicat third. So Mercedes, Aston and Lexus. But at the front of the GTD field, it's just been broken up a little bit as some prototype traffic came through, and Aaron Thielett's in the pit lane for what should be his last stop, Shea Adam.
Yeah, and it was fuel and 4 scrub Michelin tires going on the number 12 Lexus of Aaron Thielett. Remember, he's slightly off sequence because of the contact with the McLaren between Frankie Montecalvo. When Frankie was able to get in straight away, that was great action. But the Lexus team making their final stop. You were talking about the championship for GTD? Well, Paul Miller Racing simply needs to finish 1 spot ahead of the 27 Heart of Racing Aston Martin to not even need to start Petit Le Mans, a gap that has never been done before in IMSA history.
I'm pretty much the same in GTD Pro as well, actually, because there's only 5 cars in GTD Pro, and if there's only 5 cars at Petit, then I think if Ben Barnicat and Jack Hawkins can finish where they are right now in 3rd position, I think that would be good enough to clinch it for them.
They'll have to start Petit, I think, but yes.
Yes. They'll have to start.
If it stays as it is in GTD, Paul Miller can go on holiday. They won't even have to show up.
Good point. Except the fact that they are still in contention for the Endurance Cup for a clean sweep.
Exactly what I was going to say.
Yikes!
What a season it's been. If they can hold on to this would be their 6th win on the season, and 5's never been done before, so they're breaking records every time they take another victory. There's been a problem for Felipe Nasr. I think he's been off the track in that number 7 Porsche Penske Motorsport car. Just looks a little more dusty, and he was going a little slower than I would have expected him to be going at that part of the track, at the early part of the track. We'll see if we can pick that up. Actually, he was coming through the S's into turn 11. Through turn 11 and coming into turn 12-13. Might have been just a trick of the camera angle there, but at the moment, as he crosses the line, he's well behind Nick Tandy, 7 seconds ahead of Conor De Filippi, 12.5 seconds now behind Tandy. Sean Creech Motorsport coming through a gaggle of GT cars and trying to get on terms. Is that the Junior 3 car right ahead of them? May have closed up a little bit to Guillaume de Oliveira. The number 29, 6th and 7th, that would be the battle. Yeah, it is. And
that GTD battle is fun, isn't it? Those 3 cars.
Yeah, absolutely.
How long to go? 23 minutes to go. Yeah. Nose to tail, top 3 cars.
In GTD, yeah. 1.4 seconds between the 3 of them, and Brian Sellers, he'll want to win, doesn't need the win to take the championship, just needs to be ahead of the Harter Racing team.
And there's been a change now in LMP2. Mikkel Jensen in that TDS Racing car number 11 has moved ahead of Louis Delatraz. I fancy that Delatraz might have been on massive fuel save, because he had about a 4-second lead last time I looked, which was only 3 or 4 laps ago, and he's now, Mikkel Jensen has got in the number 11 car, has moved past Louis Delatraz into the lead of that class.
Penalty coming. This is another contact and incident responsibility call. Remember, a little while ago we had that contact involving Kai van Berlo in the number 91 Kelly Moss Racing. It was the 32 Mike Skeen team Korthoff car. They've had their own drive-through as well, but this time it's on Kai van Berlo, and he'll have to come down through the pit lane. We'll lose him some track position, sitting in 7th at the moment, with Bill Oberlin for Turner Motorsport. Turner Motorsport being unusually quiet today, 5th, and where is Bill? Fifth and eighth opening lap drama, of course, with damage to Bill Oberlin's car. Patrick Pilet's just set a new fastest lap in GTD Pro after he came in for his final pit stop. 22 minutes left. There's an awful lot to do for him to get back up anywhere better than fifth position in class.
Yeah, it's got no chance. I mean, the only chance he has is another full course caution.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
We'll have new tyres. Yeah, if that's a good point. If he would have new tyres, better tyres than everybody else. BDO, no strategy. I'm going to keep reminding you two of that. Only one winner, can be from any of the classes. So get your thinking caps on for that, Shea and Jeremy. At the front of the field, Nick Tandy by 12 seconds. Got Michelin post-race tech coming for you. Hashtag Michelin PRT on RS2 IMSA Radio. After we sign off on the World Feed TV, you can join us for a little bit of extra content there, all free. IMSARadio.com. Hashtag Michelin PRT at IMSA Radio. I suspect we'll have quite a lot to talk about, seeing what's already coming in.
Oh, wait a minute. So the Paul Miller Racing car has been overtaken by both then?
Yeah.
The number 57?
That's just happened last time around.
Yeah.
I said, oddly, Brian doesn't need to win this to win the championship. And I just wonder if that was getting a little bit edgy. So Phil Ellis for Winwood. Well, what a weekend it could be for Winwood, with Bryce Ward and Daniel Morad winning yesterday in spectacular conditions into the darkness on Saturday night. Can we see a double for the team? That'd be awesome. It was a dive down the inside. Brian didn't fight that too hard through the S's. And Loris Spinelli taking the opportunity to come through as well. That was the last time around. Yeah, Brian left the door open there.
Yep. No point doing anything silly, bring it home, tie everything up, have a nice clean car to go on to the final race of the season. But the question now is, what does the Lamborghini have for the Mercedes? Because Loris Spinelli, we know how fast he is. In the Lamborghini Super Trofeo a year or two ago, he's got fastest lap in every single race of the season, which I think is a pretty stout record. He's chasing that Mercedes for all he is worth. A Forte Racing powered by US Racetronics, the Arrow-sponsored green and black Lamborghini. Looks great, sounds great. And he's charging hard. The best finish of the season for that team has been a relatively disappointing. Well, they've had a fourth place finish as their best. A bunch of sevenths they've had. But looking now to get onto the podium at least for the first time.
3 fastest laps in GTD Pro in a row for Patrick Pilet. Don't panic, by the way, about the Paul Miller Racing car. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that car. Brian let those two cars pass. They pulled away a little bit, and then he's right back onto the back of them. He's just sitting about a second away with the best view in the house of that battle for the top step of the podium. And he's probably close enough to miss any of the debris if anything goes wrong, but close enough to be entertained by the battle that goes on in front of him and pick up any of the pieces should there be any little whoopsies from the cars ahead.
True that. The number 131 Cadillac now in a pretty lonely fourth position. The major interest at the moment in GTP is probably the battle for sixth position. Colin Brown has it at the moment, but he's got Renke van der Zande hot on his heels, and close behind him also is Mike Rockenfeller in the number 5 JDC Miller Motorsports Porsche as well. So Colin Brown still, I think, saving fuel furiously at the wheel of the number 60 car. Made their stop with almost an hour to go. He's going to see if he can cling on for the remaining 17 minutes.
Just looking at Philippe Albuquerque as well, he took 2 seconds out of Alexander Sims last time around. Time is running out. There's only 18 minutes to go. In the battle for fourth position, the Konica Minolta Acura, black and blue number 10. However, that has changed around this time around as Philippe Albuquerque hits the traffic that Alex did last lap around. And
yeah, that's right.
There you go, 2 seconds. 2 seconds you can drop down here. We were talking about that, weren't we? On our Michelin Countdown to Green, the Porsche keys to the race. Have to have the patience. It is a bit follow my leader in some places, particularly when you've got other classes battling ahead of you. And that is a lesson that you've got to learn, that patience. 0-1 has been caught by the number 5.
Yeah, he's been with him now for the last 10 laps or so. He caught him up about 10 laps ago, and has been tracking him very, very closely. So it's been a really good run once again for that JDC Motor sports car. And closing in on those two, by the way, remains Harry Ticknell. He had that served that drive-through penalty quite a while ago now, but he's shown really good pace, and he's only 10 seconds behind, whereas 15 laps ago the gap was over 20 seconds, so he's more than halved it.
So those 3 cars that we've been talking about, the Acura number 60, the white-fronted car with the pink on it for AutoNation and XM Sirius. Exit 207, by the way, if you're listening to getting into the car and you don't want to miss the last 15 or 16 minutes, as we always are for the main race of the IMSA weekend. Be the same for Motul Petit Le Mans, the whole 10 hours. Le Mans 24 hours as well for the past, well, decade at least. I think probably more than that, 15, 16 years. Thanks to our partnership with XM Sirius. Check XM Sirius for details, by the way, for our channel numbers.
Harry Ticknell chopped 3 seconds off that deficit to those 3 cars ahead of him on that last lap. Here is that trigger heading into turn 7 now. It's still Colin Brown ahead of that little train of cars. So ahead of the train of cars in GTD is Phil Ellis in that number 57 Winward Racing. Boy, what a weekend it would be. But can you even... No. So he leads by just about, he's got 8 or 10 car lengths over the Lamborghini. He seems to be able to maintain that gap.
.13 seconds at the front of the field between the two Porsche Penske Motorsports cars. Oh, slow car on the front straight. And there's damage to the right rear of which prototype was that?
Is that a Junior 3 car?
I think it was, Jeremy. I think it was Garrett Christ. Because Guillem's just gone across the line. Let's see if we can pick up a... It was the 29. It was Guillem de Oliveira. Yeah, if there's 2 cars to pick, I'll pick the wrong one. It was from turn 14, actually. But he's still rolling. Has not come into the pit lane. Damage to the left rear of that car, it looked like to me. Mickey Heth, hello Michael, how are you? He says, is Nick Tandy's Porsche okay to run flat out to the end of the race in terms of fuel? Oh yes, yes. I don't think he's going to need to be honest. Doesn't need to take too many chances, does he?
Right, pretty comfortable here for Felix Tandy at this stage, John. 12.5 second lead. That gap's been pretty similar now for the last 15 laps or so. It goes up and down a little bit, but not by very much, and certainly hasn't lost any time. It's actually extended lead just a little bit. Get back to third position from Felipe Dassa to Conor De Filippi. That's out to 9 seconds. That's gone out just a little bit, but again, not by very much. And the gap from De Filippi back to Alexander Sims is also pretty extensive as well.
Debris on the track at the exit of turn 14 and the entry to turn 1. Race control letting everybody know. It's really nice from Steve Tadman, who's trackside. Tweeted at IMSA Radio. He says, I'm so happy to be watching IMSA and chatting with other fans about the race cars and drivers. It's a massively refreshing change from all of the arguing currently between Formula One fans. Sports car racing is far more friendly, he says. Steve, couldn't agree with you more. And hopefully we do our bit and our other broadcast colleagues do our bit for that. I don't like promoting division. I like promoting togetherness and
inclusion,
not exclusion, and everyone together, not dividing people apart. Come on in. And look, I'm a big football supporter, and I understand about tribal behaviour in sports. I don't think it's got any place at all in motorsports, and unfortunately that's been encouraged, and in fact it was desired by Liberty and Formula One. They've got it now, and they're paying the price for it in some respects. So it's driving a lot of proper fans away. We don't have that in sports cars, and let's hope we never do. And thank you for passing on that positive experience you've had at Indianapolis Motor Speedway this weekend. Huge amount of people on the grid walk, and a good take up on the infield camping. Marty Keck and the rest of his family who were there. Jackson, Harry, Reagan, all there this weekend, and there's a number of other Radio Show Limited collective members who are around the place who've been firing in very similar stories to what we've just had there from Steve Tadman. Congratulations to Doug Bowles and to everybody at Indianapolis Motor Speedway for making the sports car fan base and their teams, making them feel welcome and providing such a great backdrop for this race. Henry, sorry, I said Harry, didn't I? Sorry, Henry. Henry Keck is sim car driver, and I can prove that because we have video. It's been a good effort by everybody. And a particular thank you to our colleagues at NASCAR Productions, who have been outstanding again this weekend. Aaron, thank you. We've always had our exactly normal lines of communication, and with us not being on site, it's made life a little bit more difficult, but the guys in the team, all the lads and lasses, have been absolutely fantastic. So Aaron, Keith D'Alessandro, of course all of our techs as well as our camera operators, and everybody up in Charlotte as well. Kerry, Rob and Tim have been on duty in London for us.
Change of lead in GTD. 78 car finally is in front, and he made that pass on the last lap 96. Spinelli has got past Phil Ellis for the lead of the class. There is the Arrow Lamborghini, I was going to say Arrow McLaren, Arrow Lamborghini of Loris Spinelli, just ahead of that multi-blue hued car.
There's damage on the right front of that Lamborghini, Jeremy.
I think there's damage on just about every car in the field, quite frankly.
That's a fair point, but I'm slightly more worried about this because it is very close to that right front Michelin there. Shea Adams just told me she's checked in. Shea Adams has just told me, not Shea Adams, that's a footballer in the UK. Shea has just told me that she's checked in with Winward and there's no fuel saving required for Phil, so he can go to the end of the race. Another set of people I've got to thank this weekend, by the way, who've been feeding back some great information for us, is the RWEC Discord group, who die-hard fans, and it's always great to know that they're having their discussions as well, and perhaps going and delving a little more into the minutiae than the more casual viewer or listener. But that's the beauty of it. If you want to know more, RWEC and Discord, I'm sure you know how to get yourself involved in that sort of things. All the usual suspects there have been discussing the on and off track action of the past week. There's been plenty to talk about, and still with one race to go here in IMSA, and still the rest of the WEC season as well to be completed.
There's a number 4 car past number 57, not for class position, of course. Number 4 car, though, that's Ben Hamlet at the wheel of that car. He's just got past Paul-Luc Chatin for 3rd position in LMP2 a couple of laps ago, and again, I think Chatin is saving fuel massively on that PR1. Mathiesen Motorsports car having made his pit stop a little bit earlier than he would have liked, and that's because he made that team made the decision to change their drivers during the extra stop after that last, surprisingly, the last caution period, which was a long time ago, and that has backfired, unfortunately, because they haven't had enough fuel to get to the end on just one more stop. Those teams that stayed out and ran a little bit more with their silver or bronze, or their bronze-rated driver in LMP2 until after the restart, they were able to make it to the end of one more stop, and that has played out in their favour. So it was a nice try by those two teams, but it hasn't worked out. And for TDS Racing, it absolutely has. Mikkel Jensen has now got a very handy lead in car number 11 in LMP2, and the number 52 car that goes past Loris Spinelli is now down in 4th position.
Last 6.5 minutes now. Nick Tandy will be trying to tell himself that he's not hearing any odd noises from the Porsche that leads the race by 12.5 seconds. Still oscillation down the Ullmann Boulevard for that car, bouncing around up and down on what is a pretty flat surface here at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. He's got traffic ahead of him, including, well, Corvette's not too far ahead. As Paul-Loup Chatin pits the PR1 Mathiesen 52 car from 4th position. That's a splash for fuel, Jeremy.
The number 8 car is going to have a similar problem, I think. He had a couple of laps in hand over number 52.
Might be all he
but,
needs.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure that's going to be enough even. He's currently running in 2nd position. That's Louis Delatraz.
That car could risk it, Jeremy, because they're not in the championship, Tower Motorsport, but 52 absolutely can't, because they're massively in championship contention, aren't they?
Good point.
So,
good point. It's very close in LMP2. They lead at the moment by just 40, well, before the weekend, by just 45 points over the number 11 car, which of Mikkel Jensen and Stephen Thomas. So if they maintain that position out front, they will be the new leaders in LMP2 points going into the final weekend.
BMW M Team RLL, the engine note you could hear in the back of the sound stage there, with Conor De Filippi holding on to 3rd position. 4th is Alexander Sims. Good job, really good job. Quietly gone about their business, lost one of the cars, the 24 car, early on with accident damage, and then repeatedly having to come into the pit lane to try and sort that out. Sims for the 31 Whelen Engineering team, fairly secure in 5th position. Colin Brown in 6th for the number 60 Acura, and Renger van der Zande for Cadillac in the 01, just 2 seconds behind Colin Brown, but hasn't been able to close in any further than that. P2, TDS, Tower, CrowdStrike. Ben Handley's been doing a cracking job. Paul-Loup Chatin back out again, and had a decent gap back to Guido van der Garde in the TDS number 35. So I'm not sure he's even lost a position there. I'll wait for them to come through next time around. So that's another good reason for the 52 to make sure they have plenty. Top of the shop in GTD. Oof. Action, contact, change of lead at the S's. And through goes Phil Ellis. That was a big block thrown by the lead Lamborghini, and here comes Brian Sellers to possibly steal away the 2nd position. He's got to lift out of it though, because he had the leader of the race coming through, Nick Tandy. A smart manoeuvre there by Brian Sellers. Oh, how much could that have cost the championship? And problems with smoke from the right rear of the, what a shame, of the number 54 car. You get this so close to the end of the race, and this is the 3rd place car in LMP3 for Dakota Dickerson and MLT Motorsports. Can he limp that car home? He only had a couple of seconds. He's gone across the line, and it's engine, I think, Jeremy.
Yeah,
it's gone.
I think so.
It's gone. Heartbreak podium position, nailed on for that car. Now, Dakota will get that car off the track because he's a very sensible and heads-up driver. That's going to hand Garrett Grist 3rd position for Junior 3 Racing. Now, let's just recap what happened in GTD. Phil Ellis and the 40 Racing powered by US Racetronics Lamborghini came together. Loris Spinelli and he had been battling for a little while. Phil Ellis went through and he's put 1.4 seconds into Loris Spinelli. Brian Sellers thought about going through but gave way to the leader of the race coming through. That could have been nasty. Inside the last 2 minutes now.
Yeah,
and still this race is delivering.
Yeah, I don't think it'll be white flag. It should be white flag next time
Correct.
around, I believe, for Nick Tandy.
1:15, the best lap of the race. 1:17 is what Tandy's doing, and we've got 1:32 to go. Now, we've not mentioned AO Racing very much, if at all, in this race. There's so much going on throughout the rest of the field. Seb Prior in 10th position after that car had a puncture earlier on. He's got Kai van Berlo right behind him, renewing their combative competition from their years in the Porsche Carrera Cup North America. And once again, we've got a fender on a Porsche GT3 car coming loose on the number 91 car. It's the right-hand side, just underneath the right headlamp, and we've seen 2 or 3 of these happen now. So contact a lap or so ago between 2nd place Porsche in the overall, Felipe Nasr, and that MLT Motorsports car. Surely that isn't what caused the problem for Dakota Dickerson, was it?
Wouldn't think so, certainly.
White flag for Nick Tandy. One more lap of Indianapolis Motor Speedway stands between the number 6 Porsche and its 2nd win of the season. A great job by Mathieu Jaminet at the start of the race, took his opportunity early on, and even though they lost positions in that reshuffle in the middle of the race, weren't listening to race control enough, and that's a lesson they will have taken on board. They'll not make that mistake again, either of the Porsches. This will be the 3rd race win for Porsche Penske Motorsport. Their performance levels are going up and up and up, and this, the first car to take points from victory in 2 races this season. I chose my words very carefully there. Long Beach and here, and the number 7 car had won at Road America, of course. At IMS, Porsche wins IMSA, and the battle on the bricks has been taken comprehensively by Porsche Penske Motorsport. The 6 from the 7 is Nick Tandy and Mathieu Jaminet take the victory from their teammates Felipe Nasr and Matt Campbell. Shea Adam is down on the pit wall.
Well, actually the literal pit wall, because we ran out to the racetrack. Mathieu Jaminet, you are a winner at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. How cool is this?
Yeah, that's mega. I mean, that was the target this morning. We had a great qualifying. We had a great weekend so far. I mean, the team first 1-2 finish. History also of the Porsche 963. So yeah, I have no words. It's really a mega day for Porsche, for Porsche Penske Motorsport as well. In front of Roger, I know for them it feels like a home race. So yeah, really happy to bring this one home, and yeah, that put us back in the championship. So that's going to be a fight again in Atlanta.
Exactly. Congratulations, Mathieu.
Thank you.
Conor de Felipe brings the number 25 BMW M Team RLL M Hybrid V8 that he shares with Nick Yellerly home to the 3rd spot on the podium. In LMP2, it's TDS Racing who win in the number 11 car from Tower Motorsports in the number 8, and CrowdStrike Racing by Algarve Pro Racing come home on the podium again as well with the 04 car. In LMP3, AWA from Riley from the number 30 Junior 3 Racing. The Junior 3 Racing cars bossing the first half of the race, having qualified in 1st and 2nd. It's 3rd and 4th for them at the end of the race. In GTD Pro, WeatherTech Racing and the 79 Mercedes. Daniel Hunkadea anchoring that car home ahead of Heart of Racing, Aston Martin, the 23 in 2nd, and Vassar Sullivan with the Lexus RCF GT3. Probably done enough, I think, for the championship. At least they may just have to start at Petite, actually, for that, because they did finish ahead of Corvette Racing, but certainly hands on the trophy. Phil Ellis with that bold move at the end of the race for Winwood makes it a delightful double twin win for Winwood Racing this weekend in GTD and, of course, yesterday in GSGT4. Ahead of Lamborghini in 2nd and 4th there, and Brian Sellers and Madison Snow from pole position come home in a sensible 3rd position. Brian Sellers deciding he didn't want any part of that battle between the Lambo and the Mercedes, and wasn't that a smart move given what we saw later on in the race? That will give them the championship. They don't even have to start the race at Petit Le Mans, but they will because they want to win the Michelin Endurance Cup as well. Jeremy Shaw, what a finish to the race, an untidy start, but what a finish to the race, and championship implications all round in those classes that we've just been talking about.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant. I mean, it was an exciting race. There was action all the way through. Incredibly, just the couple of caution periods. I mean, there was that one long one, after which we had to sort out the actual positions on the racetrack after the pit stops, and the short one at the beginning of the race. But other than that, it was incredibly clean.
BDO Nose Strategy Award nominations from Jeremy and Shea after we've heard from Jules Gounon, part of the winning team in GTD Pro for WeatherTech Racing with Daniel Hunkadea.
All right, Jules, you are the first 3-time winner this year, and your first win here at the Brickyard in IMSA competition, but not your first win here at Indy. It's a pretty cool thing. Well, for Danny at least, it's his first second win here, but your first time getting to kiss the bricks. You've watched your teammates do it before. It's going to be even better to do it now, isn't it?
Yeah, it's amazing. Today the car was fantastic, and to do it in Indianapolis is quite cool. I can kiss something else that my girlfriend will not be jealous, which is the brick, which is really cool, and she will love hearing that. But the team just did a fantastic job today. The car was so good, and the engineer, everybody, so it's really good for us in WeatherTech. We had a difficult season in the mid-season, and now we are back at it, and I hope we can continue in this way to Petit Le Mans and end the season very good.
It'll help the Manufacturers Championship too, so it's good for everybody.
Yeah, it's amazing, and it's finally... Thank you. It's finally deserved for the team after working so hard and a big fire in VAR, and so it's really a good way to bounce back, and what a way to do it in Indianapolis, the racing capital of the world. It's something very special.
Congrats.
Thank you.
And Shea, what's your nomination for the BDO Nose Strategy Award? One nomination from any of the classes. Who's it going to be for you?
Strategy. Initial thought is Paul Miller Racing. Secondary thought is Windward Racing. Sorry, I know you said one, but I've given you two. If you stick with me for just a second, though, I've got our LMP3 race winner, and it is Wayne Boyd, who has just walked over. He's standing on the bricks, and this is where his team has found him, as he gets to take his helmet off and celebrate and know that a first trip to Indy. Wayne, you have a perfect record racing at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Oh, here's Anthony Mantella, even better. We've got both of the drivers from the number 17 AWA Motorsport LMP3. All right, Anthony, I'll start with you then, because there's only been 2 LMP3 cars to win this year. You're keeping this pattern alive. What is it about winning at Daytona and Indy? It just seems to work for you at these big places.
Wayne Boyd. That's the only thing I have to say.
Well, he did a heck of a job. Both of you, your first time here, 100% win record in LMP3 at Indy. That's quite a thing, too.
It's all him. I just have to bring the car in clean, and that guy takes it home.
Well, congratulations, because you, too, are a race winner at Indy now, my friend.
Thank you very much.
All right, Wayne, we want a quick chat with you. That was some serious battling out there. You had to lay down the fast laps. What is it that just seemed to make that magic happen today for AWA?
Honestly, our car was so fast. We had the fastest car on the grid, and then the team did the best job, honestly. And I don't think I should really take a huge amount of credit, because I spun early on in the race, and they got us back into with the strategy, and so happy. I was just praying for about 40 minutes so there was no yellow. I was like, please, Lord, no.
Well, hey, congrats, and you guys get to kiss these things.
Great tradition of kissing the bricks for the winners and the class winners here at Indy. Jeremy, before we get to points and wrap up here so that we can get to Michelin Post Race Tech, your nomination for the BDO Nose Strategy Award. There's a couple of teams that we talked about, including WeatherTech and Harter Racing, who made that call just before the yellow came out.
TDS Racing will be a nominee for me in LMP2. They made the decision not to change their driver at the earliest opportunity. Bit of a gamble there, and it worked out beautifully for them. Also, my hats off also to BMW Team RLL. I mean, they called a super strategic race for the number 25 car and came home with a third place finish. So those would be my two nominations.
Let's see if we can grab one more interview before we wrap things up here. Shea, where have you? We've got all the winners next to the yard of bricks, and I take it you're still down there.
I am. I'm actually next to the part of the elevator where they take the car up onto the podium, because the man who is responsible for putting all this together has just been reunited with the driver who made his car possible to win this race. Mr. Nick Tandy is back here with Mr. Penske. I don't really want to cut in on this special moment for both of them, but just seeing the emotion on both of their faces, John, it's a pretty special thing. I'll definitely grab them in post-race tech.
Thank you, Shea. And the BDO Nose Strategy Award going to BMW M Team RLL. Only third for them today, but was that really a third place car? I'm not sure it was, to be honest, but they played the cards that they were dealt. Both of their drivers did their jobs in Conor De Filippi and Nick Yellerly, who started that. But a clean race and a clever race for BMW M Team RLL means that they take the BMW Nose Strategy Award. Not often it goes to a GTP team, actually, so congratulations to them, and we will pass that on to BDO for the relevant arrangements to be made for trophy presentations, etc. That's just about it from our race coverage. Stay tuned on RS2 as we'll give you the point standings and all the wrap-ups, some more interviews as well. Hashtag Michelin PRT at IMSA Radio. It's been a great weekend here at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Such a lot of effort has gone into putting this together. I'm glad you could join us for the weekend's action, and I hope you'll be with us again at the next time we have IMSA action. That's at WeatherTech Raceway, Laguna Seca, during Rennsport for the Porsche Carrera Cup, the Deluxe Porsche Carrera Cup North America, and then of course with our extended full week coverage of the Motul Petit Le Mans for 2023, starting with a special midweek motorsport on Wednesday. For Jeremy Shaw and Shea Adam and Brian Till, who joined us for Lamborghini as well. Thanks for being with us, Aaron. You've done a cracking job, my friend, and thanks to Keith and everybody up at Charlotte and our technical team in London. Curry was on the late shift tonight. We've seen it all this weekend. A shuffle of the pack under yellow, people sliding and hitting the wall, people sliding and not hitting the wall, probably harder to do here at Indianapolis. And Porsche Penske Motorsport back on top, first and second with Nick Tandy and Mathieu Jaminet becoming the first two-time winners in GTP this season to get awarded the points. We'll see you at Motul Petit Le Mans on behalf of the whole team. Have a great Sunday evening. Good night. God bless.
This program is a Radio Show Limited production. For more, check imsaradio.com and subscribe to IMSA Radio wherever you get your podcasts.